クリスマス。メリークリスマス。メリークリスマス。メリークリスマス。ハロー。
Server, I am a whore, screaming to the mic like a
What's up, guys? How's it going? Thoughts on sex in Minecraft? Nice music. Thanks. Thanks. How's it going, guys? I haven't really watched anything from the EU. How's it look, guys? First impressions. What are our first impressions? Oh, why is my mic so low? What are our first impressions, guys? Is that better? He released a new album after the Minecraft. What? Joel new Minecraft album.
I'm gonna replay this with better music, because this is foul.
Is this it? Is this what you're talking about? Okay, that's not what you're talking about. I saw a video on EU5 about a guy conquering all of Ireland. TBH, don't know how I feel about EU5. You guys are supposed to have opinions already. What's going on here? Looks neat, can't wait to play. How neat on a scale from 0 to 10? UI looks iffy. All the screenshots I've seen, the UI looks not great. Not great. I don't know if I like the UI. Looks like a lot of you want to do MP. I've seen something about being able to automate stuff. We'll watch the videos in a bit, but I want to know. I want to know what you guys think first. Those of you that watched, I assume you guys watched it. I didn't. I wanted to I wanted to wait. They removed the map? In the map game? They got rid of the map? What? Here it is, jump forward to 146. You didn't post the link, bro. Where's the link? My bad.
Alright everybody, so
And playing fucking Minecraft.
How does it go? I am placing blocks and shit cause I'm in fucking Minecraft. I am placing blocks and shit. I am having sex and shit cause I'm in fucking Minecraft.
Fry me up, you know, goddamn. Just put me in the fryer, Jack Blood. Get penis, put it in 5,000 Fahrenheit. Just crisp that shit. Crisp it, buddy. Crisp it.
Little Boys Hearts of Victoria Universalis. They're just adding games together. What? Hi Chiborg, wow, you're incredible Chiber, amazing even. Some might say based, unironically enjoyed every moment, still waiting for you to put a girl on. But who cares about China? Being chilling, man. Being chilling. Na 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 na. All caps, it's EU with Victoria economy and Hearts of Iron supply. I hope supply limit doesn't suck in EU4 like it does in Hearts of Iron. March of the Kings, March of the Eagles. Where's the Imperator parts? Hello. What's up? And Imperator pops. Why doesn't it use the Victoria pop system? Can we take Xeno compatibility as France? Yeah, can I go mind over Matt? What's the first tradition I should take is Burgundy? I'm using those bitches. It's my normal life, man. Got all the bitches. I live every day. Swimming in it, you know? I'm almost drowning, alright? Because I never learned how to swim as a child. But, you know, can't really throw the baby out with the bathwater. And by baby, let's just say your mom. Play map games for the punani? Yeah, I play map games for the sex. They should have made Xeno compatibility in Stellaris, like your species being able to coom with the other species, but you only get your species in return, you know? Another thank you for the tier 1. The best map game is Rants? Yeah, that has a lot of sex in it. Hope there's an event to fire this level where I really like the flavor of individual Japanese daimyos. What are you guys talking? Are you guys complaining that Japan comes pre put together? Is that what you're saying? Japan isn't 50 states. Japan comes pre-assembled. You get it with batteries? Hoping they add a fleshed out 1444 start date. I could see them doing that, right? Like, cause they have what, 3 different start dates now for Crusader Kings, and they're all relatively balanced. Just don't let them do the thing that they did last time where you get to choose. You get to increment the year day by day. Increment time day by day. That was a choice on their part. My dino. Everything that I've heard about the game though, like from Project Caesar devlogs, the Tinto talks or whatever, it seems very clear to me that they're taking the like goods system from meiou and taxes. So in my mind, I'm like, should I play this and learn what the fuck is about to happen? Is the game already out? No, this is EU4. In my head, I'm like, is there something to this? I heard this mod like ran like shit though. I recognize that place, Africa, right? Yeah. Yeah. Man, the map is so different. Two of your big hen. Okay. meiou's system is like gluing together a tank. Well, it's gonna run like shit, right? Let me go play England. Hello! I don't know what to do here. Development, fort levels, country size, that's provinces. Diversion, diplorep, hierarchy concern. Is that a estate? Welfare. And then techs start at 15. Bro. What mod is this? meiou and taxes. I think it's where they pulled their new like trade goods system from, right? But hold on, let's watch. We'll watch the videos in a minute, but I want to figure out what I want to play in the background. You're brave for this too. I've never touched this before. All I know is it runs like shit, and it's complicated, right? I'm sure I'll get filtered in like 2 hours after I'm done watching all of the new EU5 stuff, because I haven't caught up yet. College, what do you think? I saw you post on Twitter something about EU5. Just play England? Okay. Not playing Iron Man. I saw you post something about EU5. I saw you... did you post yeah, you're talking about the UI. I also think it looks like trash because it doesn't have like a style. Right? It's just boxes. The art direction is super bad. Did you play the Stellaris update? So when you build districts in the Stellaris update before, I played a little bit last night. Before the patch that happened yesterday, the button to build districts was so tiny that it was. I remember the first time I touched the update, I was like, how do I build districts? Is there a different screen for this? They need to hire someone. They need to hire someone for the UI design. Or like someone to QA it and be like, this is completely fucking unreadable, man. What's going on here? Reminds me of the Solus UI in CK3. I don't know. I feel like CK3 Oh, this is still loading. CK3's UI is less soulless than like Vicky 3 maybe. You know? I feel like Victoria is like the worst of it. Oh my god, I'm still getting sounds. And it's still loading. Let me pull up the EU5 thing. I'm hearing noises. I'm hearing noises. There's the Paradox live stream, and then I saw there's a Lathe video. We even got Cleo's thoughts on it. Maybe we'll watch Cleo's thoughts on it too. This mod is super performance intensive? Yeah. Holy shit. What is going on? Tell me more about this magnificent rework. Population mechanic. Okay. Current difficulty normal. No, I don't want hard. Uh-oh. Do I want to play on easy? No, we'll just go. We'll go normal. I'm just gonna leave the settings alone. I'm just gonna leave the settings alone. We will watch all the thoughts. Well, I didn't get a chance to play. I didn't play EU5, so I don't know anything about it yet. Catter, I know you hate React content. You really have to play it to make a 30-minute YouTube video with a clickbait title? Yeah, well, I would assume that people who played it have a little bit more insight into the game, right? That's typically how this works. Yeah, Catter skip VOD. Catter, leave the stream for the day, because if I see you bitching, I'm banning. Ban.
Hello everyone, I'm Johan Andersson. I'm the studio manager of Paradox Tinto and the creative lead for Project Caesar. We've been teasing you guys about this project for over a year now, and now it's finally time to reveal what this is all about.
Imagine getting to live in... Is he in Spain right now? No, he's probably in Sweden. The Tinto office is in Spain, right?
With each stroke of the brush,
Probably
the
commutes.
landscape
3-hour
unfolds.
plane ride every day.
And with every gesture, a path is carved through history. Ambition, once ignited, pushes forward and can never be tamed. With
Fuck
every
sailing on that
line,
shit.
a new horizon. Drawn from the wells of ancient civilizations, the landscape changes, but the drive remains. Painting with the sharp reds of revolution and the black ash of scorched battlefields. legacy is forged of the chosen, tracing the silhouettes of warriors.
Oh, Japan!
With the final stroke, like fire across the landscape. Never before has the canvas stretched so far. Europa Universalis
Points.
5.
Japan mentioned.
Be ambitious.
I saw a samurai sword. Hold on. What is this fucking menu? What is it? What is this? What's going on here? What?
Yo, it's finally happening. How does it feel?
I don't have words to describe how excited I am about
I already
this.
have
This is gonna be
policies?
so good.
So I'm an EU4 player with 5,000 hours. How different of an experience is this going to be for me?
It's not like playing a new
Point.
expansion.
That's a
There's
that's a
they've tried to change
YouTuber.
mechanics at every single place.
I've seen
gonna
him.
be new.
I've seen him
I would say
playing
throw
playing
away the
EU4
5,000
before.
hours, but it's still gonna be some things.
This.
So you and the team have been working on this for a very long time. How happy have you been with progress?
Does this bar go to 11?
It can if you want.
Yeah, well,
So very happy.
yeah, I'm super happy. It's like my team is among the best people I've ever worked with. They're been recruiting people
Wales
a lot from
together?
the community and with people with a lot of experience. And
Is there anything cool in Wales?
An amount of history and amount of mechanics and everything we got into the game is beyond what I dreamed of when we started.
Do you have like a single word in mind to describe the idea behind what you're trying to achieve?
Ambitious, is that a good word? to
Ambitious
use?
is a very good use.
Yeah, I would just describe the game as we set out very ambitious, and it's a game where you can do pretty much everything. in the
Everything?
game. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how I want to play it, there's something for me to do.
Yeah, it's like if you want to play Hanseatic Trader Nation, you can do that, just focusing on trade. Or if you want to relive the Ottoman Empire's expansion as a militaristic country, you can do that. Or if you just want to sit and play as your small country somewhere and just get through history, you can do that.
So the world itself is something that's alive.
Yeah, I think that's the best description of the game. We're trying to feel like a game where it shouldn't feel like a game. It should feel like you actually are the country and playing that country through history and guiding it.
And how important would you say the community has been to the development of this game?
I don't think there's words
If a game's alive, can you have sex with it?
that I can describe how important they are, because part of my team is built from the community. We have been talking for over a year in various ways, like asking for feedback about the game. Because if there's one thing these 30 years have taught me, is that the community is vital for making a good game. You can't just sit on your own and code something.
Well, Johan, I think I'm ready. Tell me everything there is to know.
How much time do you have?
It's 5,000 hours in EU4, I can spend a little more.
Yeah, well, I brought a bunch of developers that are more knowledgeable about the details of the game than I am.
I can't pay no
and they're
more
in the
exhaustion.
castle up here ahead.
Well, let's go find him.
Yes, let's do.
How much did they pay for the drone?
Welcome to Skogkloster Slot. The servant here will take care of your sword for you.
50 kroner.
So what happens now? Where should I go?
Well, my journey here is over, but in this castle there's a lot of developers that will give you all the information you need. But you need to take this to Eric. He will know what to do with it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and good luck on your journey.
Before this castle was built in 1654, this was just a remote slice of land, a blank canvas. The man who built this castle had been in dozens of them before, but he thought to himself, I can build one even better.
You've loved and you've lived Europa Universalis, but Paradox have thought to themselves, we can build one even bigger and even better. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey to discover how they've done just that with Europa Universalis 5.
Can we appreciate the really cinematic 21:10 aspect ratio here?
The first historical relic on our journey is Dave. Hi, Dave.
Oh, hi Dave. Welcome to the workshop.
It's a great workshop. So this room feels like a pretty good metaphor for the start of game development. How do you even begin with a project as ambitious as Europa Universalis 5?
Well, we started 5 years ago by building a new studio in Spain, specifically to make the project. So we hired
laughing, but I'm super
modders, we
jealous.
hired super
I would go
fans, we
to-
hired,
I would
the
go to
best developers
Spain.
from
I
around
would go
the
to
world,
Spain.
specifically to make this project.
So once you've assembled this
Wait,
great
this isn't
team,
even Spain. This is
do
this
you
is
go
in Sweden, right?
from that, what's your first start?
I think he said like a Swedish
starts
name
with a
for the
vision.
castle.
And that vision came from Johan, and it was, I want to make the grandest strategy game. That includes everything from having, from being the most immersive game we could possibly make, having a living world where everything feels like it's impacting something else.
So you've taken all the buzzwords, you've gone historically accurate, dynamism, you want immersion. How do you take those ideas and put them into a game?
That's a tricky question. Well, one of the things you start with is making concept art, so we can decide how everything looks and feels.
What's the first mechanic that comes to mind? What do you start with?
Pops, which are population groups, groups of people.
They really like pops in all of
For
the games.
example, people of the same culture and religion band together into a single unit.
I don't know if they need to have
And they can be anything
portraits
from just
so
one
much.
person
Like
to
every
a million
pop has a
people,
portrait
one
in
of these
Vicky,
units.
So a single person to
and they have
multiple
portraits in
millions and millions. So we're
Stellaris. They're
simulating
probably gonna have portraits
hundreds of
here if
millions
they're
at the
talking
start of the
about
game.
that. being
We're
the focus of-
simulating every person who was alive in 1337.
Gotta
That's a
have
lot
their
of people.
pops.
Yes.
So the population system is tied into everything that you do. How do I get more of them?
With food production, so the more food you produce, the more surplus you
portraits this
have,
time, ding
which
dong.
increases your population growth. And then, of course, the reverse is true. If they're starving, you're going to lose a lot of pops.
So we're modeling individuals being born, working, dying. I'm assuming they're also going to stratify throughout society. What does that look like?
Yeah, so each pop has a type, a sort of social class, which could be, of course, nobility, burghers, peasants. They all have different jobs, depending on which class they're in, and they also belong to different estates in your government.
So what's an estate? What do they do?
An estate is a group of pops who have a political agenda. Now, most countries have the nobility, burghers, clergy, and peasants.
Whoa,
And,
whoa. That's... Can I pull that screen back up? Those are the pops listed in the meiou and taxes screen.
Basically, they all have their own privileges that you give them and can take away from them. You can also sort them by social class. So, for example, clergymen are in a different group from nobility.
And that would be the estate system.
It ties into the estate system, yes.
How does the estate system work?
So your pops organize into estates which have their own agenda. They have their own ideas of how they want to run the country.
What if the nobility decide they want something different to me? Can they just go off and do it?
It
Like,
depends.
kill you
If
and your
give them the
family.
right privileges, you might give them the ability to build their own fortifications or allow your peasants to arm themselves.
So regardless of if I want it, if I've given them that privilege, they're going to go and do it. And I'm assuming
Yes.
that
Advisors are
if
cheap.
their agendas and my agenda line up, that's going to benefit me quite nicely.
But they don't always line up. That's the rub.
What is a privilege? You mentioned nobility building forts. What does that look like in terms of other privileges, like with the clergy?
So you could, for example, give
Automated
your
building
burghers
from
control
a-
over the
from
coinage.
estates is
It's
kind
all
of a
about give and take.
interesting
You know,
idea.
you want to, you almost never want to give them a privilege, but sometimes it becomes necessary.
So give me a context in which it's necessary. Why would I give out a privilege?
Maybe you want to pass something through Parliament, and the nobility say, we'll only let that if you give us this privilege.
If the inverse happens and their agenda doesn't align with me, I need to either bring them under control or pacify them.
Yes, if you're feeling confident, you can remove privileges from an estate, but you need to be sure that you're in a good position to do that.
So it's a constant balance. I need to make sure that they're happy, but not too powerful that they can take me out.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. So if I manage to do everything correctly, what does that look like?
If you have a happy populace, happy estates, you have a prosperous nation, and that will allow you to go from this to this.
Well, I've done quite well for myself.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
How much of that food is edible? Look at the... Here, we'll zoom in. Look at the, on like the green part. That's plastic. That's not edible. That's not edible either. Look at that fake stem coming out of the apple. That's not real. The grapes? The grapes? Those aren't real either. How are you gonna... How are you gonna give Lath a medieval feast without actually having real food? Paradox. You'll buy a drone, but you'll skimp out on 2 apples, some dusted cherries and grapes? Hello?
EU5 stretches from 1337 to 1837. That's 500 years of history. A lot happens in that time period. Talk me through how the game changes to reflect the changes in history.
So we've divided the era into 6.
Is that a shallot?
Different ages, and inside those ages we have different institutions, so that every slice of 100 years or so feels different from the previous one or the next one. Is much more about medieval fiefdoms,
olives, grapes, and shallots,
and this sort of old order. But by the end of the game, you have the Industrial Revolution. You know, prices of coal go up. People are using more modern technology.
Well, let's talk technologies. These more modern technologies you're speaking about. How does the technology system in the game work?
So once you've embraced an institution, that unlocks a brand new technology tree. And players...
Oh, I have to... Let me push my glasses up. Oh, shit. Age of Discovery, Age of Traditions. So tech trees are tied to ages. So is that's sort of like CK3's tech groups being tied to whatever. I get it. Masters of the Nile. Monthly prosperity, food production. Okay. New World crops, food production, farming. No, painting. What does that say? Jewelry output. Improved spy organization. War galleys. Surgery. Character life expectancy, plague resistance. Blast furnace is I can't read that. It's like Imperator and Victoria put together. Yeah. Yeah. Colonial policy. You unlock New World that... Oh, you do have colonial range still. Diplo range, exploration, preparation, time modifier. Okay. I don't know what to make of that.
Can choose to go down that list and unlock specific things from that tree.
So you mentioned institutions. What exactly are they?
Unique text,
So
yeah,
an
for picking an
is
institution
an
or
idea
whatever.
that spreads. For example, it could be
Or during the ages or whatever.
the quest for the new world, which changes the
Oh,
way.
you mean unique text under Oh yeah, because Masters of the Nile, right? You'd only get that if you own the Nile River. That makes sense. I get what you mean now.
You can explore.
The Nile is a river in Egypt.
So exploration was a big thing during this era. I'm assuming that's also
I
more
still
than the
haven't
game.
unpaused this game,
Yes.
by the way.
How does that work?
So once you reach the age of discovery, you might want to start looking over the oceans and to decide to colonize distant lands.
So colonization then, how does that work?
So any country can colonize, and it's a lot easier if you have Quest for the New World institution embraced. But colonization essentially allows you
Is there
to
still gonna be
take unclaimed
like Eastern versus
territory
Western tech groups and Native American
absorb
tech
it
groups and
into
stuff?
your empire.
So any country can colonize. I don't have to be a specific nation to colonize.
Exactly, exactly.
How different does gameplay vary from place to place?
The games vary quite a lot depending on which country you choose. Your
colonize,
impact
nice.
is so much.
Well,
by
couldn't anyone
your-
colonize already? It just like you were just limited by how quickly you could grow your colony range, right?
Your setup, what pops you have, what terrain you have.
Oh,
and
you
what
needed a
neighbors you have.
coastline.
That every playthrough is going to be different if you're playing with France against Flanders.
But I'm not locked in, am I? I can take
not
the
tied to
starting
ideas
position of
anymore.
France and go wherever I want with it. I
Okay,
could colonize,
okay,
I could
okay.
fight, I could focus on the economy, I could focus on trade.
I see what
Exactly.
I get it.
It's not railroaded. You can choose which path you want. So you can take France
Political
as
policies.
a big trading nation, or you could just conquer your neighbors.
So the big takeaway is that it is a living world.
Exactly.
But in order to achieve what we've been talking about, to do any of the scenarios we've gone through, I have to take care of my population, right?
Exactly. Your population influences every decision you take. Your population is your economy, and your economy is your population. So you have to look after them if you want to lead your country to wealth.
Well, here's to wealth.
To wealth.
Money. Yeah, where's the gameplay? Money.
Every game needs a solid framework, and EU5 will have just that. The population mechanic will be at the heart of everything that you do, and if you manage it carefully, you will be rewarded with a prosperous realm. Hundreds of millions of people are going to be simulated in a fully dynamic, living world. But
How's
what
this
does
not
that
gonna run
actually
like dog
mean?
shit?
Let's go to the library to find out.
You have to spend mana to tax?
Roger!
This is a library.
That's going to complicate the interview.
Fair enough.
Can you tell me about the living world?
Living world means that things don't come out of nothing. It's the population that live in the locations which produce the goods by working in the resource gathering operations, or RGO for short. And then those goods are used in other buildings.
What are those? How do I build them? How do I use them?
Buildings are in locations, and there are many types of buildings that all of them do different things. But in general, they will take resources to maintain and to build, and some of them will produce other types of goods, and they will employ the population to do that.
What would I do with those goods?
All the goods produced, both raw resources and refined goods, go into the market, and from there, they are used to supply the needs of the population and the needs of the buildings.
So
If EU4
what
has
is
a better, like, production chain mechanic than Victoria 3, why would anybody ever play Victoria 3?
market? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a difficult concept. Imagine you're playing as England, for example. You have a market center in London, and that would attract the locations around it to the London market. Locations will be pooled towards one market or another, depending on the conditions, and all the locations belonging to a market will get the resources from that market.
So if another market has something that I don't have, I can trade for it.
Yes, exactly. If you need some good in your market that you don't have access to, you'll have to make a trade deal between any two markets that you have access to.
Let's say a location is in the market of Scandinavia, let's call it. Is that permanent or can they shift?
Now, markets are completely dynamic. Every location will belong
This
to
is
a
one
market
of the-
or another market, depending on different factors.
This is one of the one things that I've wanted for a really long time in EU4 was I've always found it sort of fail RP. I don't know if you guys care about this. A lot of you guys are like kind of sweaty or min-maxing EU4. I feel like it's kind of fail RP to like be playing super strong Japan or something, but Japan isn't an ending trade node, right? So you're still gonna get less like trade income than like having everything be diverted to England, right? To me it feels like fail RP. I like this better.
And
More
markets
interesting.
themselves can be created and destroyed completely free.
It took the
Really,
bot
they
this
have a
long
cost.
to actually load the
So
thing.
I'm, as a
Julius,
player,
thank you
can
for the
both
tier one
create
sub.
and destroy markets
Yes,
under
you
my
can-
control.
Yes, you can create your own market if you are, for example, if you are playing as Sweden and you don't have a market because you're trading in the market of Lübeck, for example, and you see it more beneficial for you to have a market in Stockholm, you can create a market in Stockholm.
So in this Stockholm market, let's say I wanted something like legumes. How could I get it if it wasn't already in my market?
If you
What the fuck is this window? Here you can choose what percentage will be deducted from your treasury every X years to be spent on investment on selected provinces through the 115 decision. What the fuck? Increase budget by 5%. 5% of treasury every... Is this every province every 5 years? Every X
Legumes
years?
mentioned.
Said to happen every 5 years. Hector, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Nunder drew the image for this. You should not have come here, human. Why do you cross through my domain? I was on my way to the kitchen for a snack and I got lost. You ended up in the 12th plane of torment on your way to the kitchen. I am not a clever man. What is this? What is this? What is this? Add all owned provinces. Okay. Notify me when an investment happens. And exit.
want some good that's not in your market, then you'll have to make a trade deal. A country can make a trade deal between any two markets that they have access to, and that would move the goods from the stockpile of that market to the market you're moving it.
So if I'm Sweden, I can have Danish provinces in my location.
Yes, the goods produced in the Danish locations will be used in your market.
So if I'm buying goods and selling goods, what determines the price of those goods?
Trade deals have a cost based on the distance between the markets and also depending on the price of the specific good. Each good have a base price And also, it will be modified depending on basically supply and demand between the different markets they are being traded. So if a good is very abundant in a market, it will be cheap. And if it's not that abundant or basically scarce, it will be expensive.
How do I get the money to then buy goods at a loss?
Countries can gain income from a variety of sources, but the main one is basically taxing your population. However, you won't be able to completely tax all your population because it will depend on the control you have on the locations.
So what's control?
Control is an indicative, or basically the amount of power.
Are they trying to like homogenize their systems? Because control is basically just autonomy, but the scale is reversed, right? It's negative autonomy.
That your country has in a location, and it will irradiate from your capital. You have your cabinet to increase control if you want.
How can I gather more taxes from like a location?
But the main tool that the countries have at their
Reverse
disposal
autonomy.
is the cabinet.
That gives me an idea.
100 is good instead of 0 this time.
So Roger has just told us about the living world, dynamic markets, and how to build a prosperous nation. But what I heard was newly conquered territories. Let's head to the armory.
Welcome to the armory.
Thank you. I've been given this map. I think it's finally time we show them.
Let's do that.
This is a map of 1337, but how accurate is it?
Well, Leith, I would say this is the most accurate and granular map we ever made for a grand strategy game.
So you're going to need to take me through this beautiful map here. How important is historical accuracy to something like this?
I'm glad you asked, because
we've all seen the maps
map
for
we're starting in
EU5, right? You guys have watched the or looked at the Tinto
I would
talks.
say we
This seems
made
pretty
a
cool.
huge effort in making it as accurate and granular as possible, which that obviously has its challenges. For example, in the warfare end of things, since now the diversity geographically wise is huge, so a lot of things can impact the outcome of a war. So basically what we are talking here is that, for example, let's say if you had a military campaign in something around the Caucasus area over here with Armenia and the potential rise of Ottomans and this part of the world, what you would encounter is that it's a very steep place with sort of very thin areas to go through, and that obviously you might feel like it's an opportunity, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a trap. It's a huge trap.
I'm curious about
By
playing
that,
the
which I
mercenary
mean
companies
is that
and stuff.
things like,
I know you can
let's
like play as
say,
a bank.
rivers, mountains, straits, those definitely can define the outcome of a battle and potentially the outcome of a war. So you have to be very careful with how you treat your movement of
What
troops
if they released the game
in
and there was no
map.
map?
So before we even get
What
to
the
war,
fuck would we do?
what kind of preparations do I need to make to supply my armies?
I would say, first of all, that going into a war is not easy at all. And yeah, you can be challenged in case they declare to you if you are not prepared. In case you are the one that wants to be the aggressor, I would say that the first thing to consider is building a war chest. That would be for starters. But also you have to be very careful with the production game loop of things. Because at starting date, basically you rely a lot into raising levies. And those levies come from population. And the thing is that this population is the one that's responsible for the outcome of your buildings. So what I'm saying here is that when you start a campaign in 1337
It's
and you
literally
raise
Victoria 3, guys.
all your levies, you're making your
You need
buildings...
to build a chest before going to war for something. Yeah. Sorry, you can't go to
So
you
you're
can't go to
telling
war
me
if you don't have
that if I raise all of my levies, get into
you
a
know,
bad
boobs,
battle,
guys.
and my
No
army gets
boobs,
wiped
no
out,
war.
I'm also wiping out all of my populations at home, so there's no one to work in the fields and all the buildings.
Yeah, that is correct.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about military objectives, what are some of those military objectives? Can I tell an army to go siege? Can I tell an army to go engage other armies? How does that work?
Definitely. Like for starters, there would be one of the most used, I assume, is gonna be the carpet siege, which basically is the one that allows you to make a lot of your armies go straight towards the forts of your enemy, so you don't need to be micromanaging.
Carpet siege
on that
automation is gonna be
regard.
nice.
And
One of
that
the problems I always
obviously
have is
has its
I hate sitting here and going.
Like, let's say you are too lightly on
Splitting
these
400 times.
tools and you use them a bit too much. Maybe you are not defending your own country, because there is a military objective to defend your own lands
that's
or
not
to call
good.
everyone back to defend. But if you are just using the tools in an aggressive way, it's probably gonna screw you up when it comes to the enemy.
So let's say, hypothetically, I am an Englishman.
Yes.
And I want to press my rightful claim on the
Should
throne
we
of
have that
France.
in EU4?
Can I use my
Auto siege doesn't split you up, does it? I assumed auto siege. I assumed auto siege didn't split your armies into smaller units. I guess they didn't imply that either in this, did they? Never mind.
superior navy and sailing ability?
Definitely, definitely, 100%. Like,
yeah, but then
maybe-
you hold on, you split. All right, you split, and then you have to, and then you have to click every single new army, and you have to go, okay, autonomous siege in these provinces. Shit sucks, man. It sucks. Merry Christmas. Okay, I need mercs.
Peace in EU5 are meant to be, first of all, for movement of troops. That is a huge thing that helps the troops to move around, but also it supplies nearby armies. So that would be something to take into account. I would also add to this that if you, as an Englishman, start, let's say you go to with another one, and you go here, and you start going deep into French territory, thanks to your navies, basically, what you would get is that a lot of the locations in France, when you occupy them, you can basically get their food.
So I can live off the land in France?
Yes.
Ideally.
That's the thing. And also, like, it goes both ways.
Pillage and
'cause
starve
you get
people.
the food of the enemy, and that means the enemy doesn't get that food. So that is pretty good for your outcome.
So you mentioned that wars are won and lost according to your economy, if you're out too long. How do I win a battle?
Winning a battle can be decided by a lot of factors. First of all, as the most usual one, if you have the biggest army, you probably will win. But the thing is that this game doesn't assure you that.
So the different factors are size of the army,
Yes.
professionalism of the army,
Yes.
the general, the terrain,
Yes.
and beyond.
Yeah, I would say supplying your army with food. If an army has low morale due to low food supply, then it's another factor to consider. An
So if
army
they're
is
starving to death, they can't fight.
basically that.
So what are the potential
can't wait to get
ramifications of
Napoleon.
starvation then?
That your entire army could die of starvation.
I can't wait to get
which would be
encircled
a
in
very bad
EU4.
outcome,
That's the
would
game where
say
I want to
so.
get encircled in.
And that means probably that the enemy will be super happy about it. So, but yeah, in order to supply your army, you would have to consider, first of all, supply depots. That's something you have to get from locations in order to, especially if your campaign is long and you are very deep into the enemy land. And there's some countries here that I would say are huge in terms of territory. Let's say you start as Morocco and you want to invade Castile. So
Why
the
didn't
more you get
Paradox
into
give you early
the
access?
specific,
Does
territory,
Paradox
the
hate
more you might be
women?
punished unless you
Probably
prepare,
because I didn't ask.
fine with it.
So
But
if I'm Tunisian and I
Yes.
want to invade Castile,
yes,
the deeper I go, the more I need to consider supply because I could be cut off.
yeah, that's pretty much it. But not only that, because if you don't make sure that your own country is safe. in
Why
terms
didn't
of
you ask, do you hate
possessions,
women?
then
Yes.
you could face another problem, which is that your
Is the game about
enemy
to crash?
cuts down
Holy shit, this runs horribly, guys.
your supply. And that would mean that at the end, you wouldn't get that much needed food.
Let's say I have a weaker economy than my opponent. They're going to win. Am I able to secure quick tactical victories in order to beat my opponent? How can I take their resources away from them?
Well, that's a very good question because there's a lot of opportunities. For once, the map we have in this game allows you to browse very carefully which enemy locations might be producing from the land the goods that are meant to supply their units. So I guess a smart choice, let's, for example, choose the Golden Horde. So Golden Horde relies heavily on horses, as we all know. So if you detect the places that have horses in it, and you are quick enough to occupy those, you're basically decreasing their chances to fill up their ranks once they have some losses.
Hold on, what the fuck? Yeah, I won. I captured someone. I captured the king, I guess. Oh, these are good. Oh no, wait, they love me. Okay. Okay. Guys, I might be good at EU4. I might be good at EU4.
And that would benefit you a lot. That also would include other types of factors, like, let's say, if you are occupying a location that is meant to be a huge food supply for your enemy, then you are doing a very good strategy because you are cutting them down as well. Actually, the magic of this granularity, that it allows you to, if that country is facing other wars, or if that country is just having an internal problem with the managing of their supplies, then you have an opportunity there. So yeah, I would say that if you are using a small country, you're playing a small country, you might have a chance to succeed.
So it's less about the size of the dog in the fight and more about how much food is in his food bowl?
Yeah, that I would say that, yes.
Nice.
There's many ways to punish your enemy. Another good option, obviously, but that even comes from EU4 times, although in this case, I would say it's harder, would be to...
What really depends is how fat the dog is. Because if the dog is fat enough, then it can like body slam the other dog and suffocate it, right?
Occupy the capital. When you occupy the capital of the enemy, basically you are...
the victor.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so
He's
much
got
for
the
all that
steel
fantastic
chair!
information. I have just one
Coming
more
from the
question
top
for you.
rope!
How many princes are there in the HRE? Eric?
How many princes are in the HRE?
So Eric left before I could get all the answers that I wanted, but fortunately I know somewhere else that I can seek guidance.
If you occupy their capital, you're the victor. Is that actually how it's gonna work? If you just occupy their capital, then it's cooked. That's gonna make wars really annoying. It's not like them lying or anything, right? I'll have this harvesty down here. Everything comes from the capital. So in Hoi 4, when your capital gets taken, it moves, right? So I assume it's not going to do the same thing, like the supply propagates from your capital or whatever. Losing your capital hurts a lot more than just your war score in this. But I mean, you can get supply from other places. Your supply doesn't necessarily have to come... I mean, I guess in the game it has to come from your capital. But I mean, you can have supply in the real world propagate from somewhere else. There's obviously a hit to having your capital lost. But you ever hear about not putting all your food in one dog food bowl?
Forgive me, random church bench dev, for I have sinned.
Hi, cat. Hi.
I have a question about fates.
It's like an auto feeder for my cats.
No, about fates in the game.
You see, what I do is I just leave the bag open and they can eat however much they want themselves.
In the game, there's, for example, Catholicism, there's Buddhism, there's Zoroastrianism, there's Shintoism, and plenty of faiths.
And do they have their own unique mechanics?
Yes, everyone has own unique set of mechanics that they can interact and play with.
And I'm assuming all these different pops have varieties of different faiths.
Yes, each pop will belong to a specific faith. And in your country, there could be pops of many diverse faiths that you will have to interact with, and they could be perfectly happy, but they could also be unhappy when their different faith could become a problem for you.
So if there's a pop that has the same faith as me, they're perfectly happy.
Not necessarily. They can be perfectly unhappy while sharing your own faith.
Great.
You will have a lot of minorities, both of culture and of faith in your country at all times, mostly. And what you can do about them is, well, you can convert and assimilate them, or you could tolerate and accept those cultures and those faiths.
Can't take French colonies and Americans even if you occupy most of France. Doesn't make... I assume there's going to be a separate transfer colony peace deal like in EU4 or something. Unless I misheard.
You mentioned that I can tolerate them. Does that mean that I can have a fully tolerant society, tolerating all minorities?
Yes, if you're particularly humanist, that's definitely a goal to strive towards.
So you're saying, what does that mean? How does one become humanist?
Well, humanism is a societal value in the game, which is opposed to spiritualism. And spiritualist countries would have it, for example, easier to convert and assimilate. And it's one of dozens of societal values that we have in the game. For example, you could be more innovative,
Am I looking
or
at?
you could be more traditionalist, or you could focus your army, for example, on quantity or on quality, but you can't do both.
Can you give me an example of a major situation that would impact my societal values?
Well, there's one which will come fairly early on in the game, which is the Black Death, which will happen around like 10, 15 years after the game starts and will affect a majority of the globe.
What can I do to lessen the impact of the Black Death?
Well, you can try different things. You can try to build hospitals, you can maybe establish a quarantine, procure remedies, but, well, I hope you find solace in faith. Good luck.
Our tour today is at an end, but it's just the start of our grandest journey yet. We'll find out whether your reign will be known as a glorious golden age or for carnage and chaos. Will you carve your name into history or be a mere footnote in someone else's chapter? In Europa Universalis 5, anything is possible. History is yours to write. One final piece of advice. Be ambitious.
Salute was the first campaign you'll play to. Ooh, I'm gonna have to do Japan. Listen, with the trade markets thing, I want to make Japan the colonial trade empire it should have been historically. Hold on, I swear to God I heard like an Elden Ring song.
Eric? I could get all the wanted, but fortunately I know somewhere else that I can seek guidance.
This is a Dark Souls. This is from Dark Souls 3. This is from Bloodborne. Hold on. Okay, let's see some more EU5 stuff. What the fuck is happening? EU5. I saw Lath's video. We had a whole hour of Lath today.
Isn't she beautiful? Oh, hi.
Hi.
Sorry, didn't see you there. It's me, Lath, from the EU5 announcement video. Ironically, so cool. I played EU4 on release, and now I'm in the announcement.
I don't like this UI. Can we do a comparison really quick? Hold on, can we do a comparison really quick? Look at the ledgers here. The ledger here has like a nice accent. All right, it has text with a nicely toned border behind it. It has these cool bars that look like they're from the Renaissance. This is boxes. It's boxes. They're boxes. Just commission a mod. How moddable is CK3 and Victoria's UIs? How moddable are they? I hope those are just alpha textures. I hope the font's alpha too. Hold on. What is this font? It's not particularly readable. Victor UI is very moddable. I feel like at the beginning of the EU5 video, like we wanted to get the visual style down, but the UI doesn't really seem to have a visual style. The map looks nice. The map looks nice. The map looks nice, but that's
announcement video. You don't understand how hyped I am, chaps. It's
not what they've ever
dream
been.
come true,
That's not ever
honestly.
been the problem.
Anyway, I need to be professional. I've only got 30 minutes to make this video. So let me be clear. This is not a sponsored video. I get to say whatever I want. I can say things like, I don't like the diplomacy interface in Europa Universalis 5, and Paradox can't touch me, I hope. And I also want to make it clear that this is a work in progress build. A lot of things are going to change and develop over time. So it's more of like a first impressions, first look. And Paradox does want your input. They want my feedback, your feedback, so they can make the game better. That's the whole point of this. When I was told I only had 30 minutes, I wasn't sure exactly what kind of video to make. Do I make just a pure review and impressions? Do I make a gameplay video? So I decided to do everything. I've broken this video up into parts so you can navigate through with timestamps. The first part is going to be a mild tutorial / explainer, because there's no point me diving into gameplay and explaining how I feel about it without you understanding how the game actually works. For the second part of the video, we're going to be diving in with some actual gameplay so you can see how the game feels, plays, runs. I'm actually allowed to answer your questions, so if you have any questions about Europa Universalis 5 or the gameplay or anything, leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. The final part is going to be my current thoughts, both good and also bad.
It's true,
like I said, this is not sponsored, which means I get to be critical of the game, even though I was in the announcement.
10th Army balance unit. Balance unit. What? What?
I'm actually allowed to, and I'll be sure to. So if you have any questions about Europa Universalis 5 or the gameplay.
First phase of the 100 Years' War. Battles won. This is the... Is this the war screen? This is war participation at the bottom. What is this?
Or anything, leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. The final part is going to be my current thoughts, both good and also bad. Like I said, this is not sponsored, which means I get to be critical of the game.
The Army UI looks a lot like Victoria 3, and I don't know how much I like that. I think it's very... I think for a game like EU4, where there's lots of little units, I think a smaller window like is in EU4, and then I select generals like this. I don't need a portrait for my generals, do I?
In the announcement trailer, and so if I go...
Do I need a portrait for my generals when I'm assigning them to an army?
But on a serious note, the announcement video was so cool to film. I'm going to release a video just on the process of that, so make sure to like the video and subscribe. More EU5 content will be coming out in the next couple of days. But for now, and for the first time on YouTube, welcome to some Europa Universalis 5 content. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Europa Universalis 5. First off, let's check out the maps, because that is what you're here for. So as you can see, we have every single map mode imaginable here, from the current political map mode to things such as population. We've got things like a food map mode. We've got things like markets, and many, many, many more besides all of that. There's a lot of information that you can sift through, so let's settle in, and I'm going to get you to grips first with how the game actually works. There's no point me discussing EU5 without telling you how it works. Or at least how I think it works. There's not exactly a wiki, chaps. I can't just go onto YouTube and Google how to play EU5. I've had to learn this on the fly. Right, chaps, welcome to the Kingdom of England. Before I talk about anything else in Europe and Versailles 5, I have to talk about the population. The population is going to be everything. It's your economy, it's your army, it's your technology, it's everything, and it is up here. Your pops are sorted into population groups.
Can I have a
interest or
fruit-based
traits. So, for example,
I like how
culture
food
or
is
religion
represented
or
by an
class,
apple.
as you can see at the bottom. In Europe and Versailles 5, each population has its own needs, its own wants, its own desires, its own proclivities, everything. They also contribute to your country in different ways, as well as also consuming a different amount of food. With that in mind, let's have a look at our estates. Our population is sorted into these, and they represent their collective power and satisfaction, as you can see here. We can give them privileges, like some of them already start with, to make them happy, and that'll also give us certain bonuses. It does also
here's my assumption, alright? Here's my assumption. Bread is going to be a trade good that you produce in a building, like a bakery that you have to place, that you use grain as part of your production chain. So they want to use an apple to differentiate it from the fact that there's a food thing and then there's the trade good, grain, and bread. That's my assumption. Thales, thank you for the
For example, the nobility here have the ability and the right to build castles. They're going to use their own money to build forts, which is good for us, in the same way that the burghers can use their own money to build roads if I give them that privilege. But if the nobility get rowdy, I now have a bunch of noblemen who have their own forts, which I don't need to explain why that is bad. So to revoke this privilege here, it's going to cost me 100 stability.
What? So I can't dev provinces. Provinces dev themselves based off of infrastructure, the infrastructure thing, right? The build infrastructure thing. I assume that's what increases dev. That's my assumption, right? But there's different kinds of dev. Rural, upper class, urban. Represents the economic productivity of your urban population. Oh. Do I have to build buildings to increase their productivity? Like, I assume that like the urban population centers are going to need to have like bakeries and different types of manufactories in like 1600, 1700, whatever. And that's how they become productive. What's productivity for the upper class? The noble elite. Commerce and knowledge. High value products, raw materials, alcohol. So I assume there's no industry. What the fuck am I looking at? Hold on. Let me minimize this really quick. What the fuck am I looking at, man? Press A to turn page. This is glued together. Crop, commerce, inputs, industrial goods, labor. Okay, I see the value is... Okay, so then... Size and profit. So... Why is burger labor so expensive? Is it because I have a lack of... Is it due to the fact that I have so few burgers in my country? Are they overtaxed? How do I lower taxes on the burgers so that I get more people trading? Land tax. I would rent dues, salt, excise, property tax, alcohol, poll tax. Burger tax. Explaining taxation to Americans, imagine a burger. Housing, infrastructure. Housing's already built. What if I remove... Can I remove housing? No state academic maintenance. Primitive road network. How do I build roads? Maintenance per unit. Raw materials, timber, industrial materials, peasant labor. What the fuck is this mod, man? What the fuck am I looking at? What the fuck am I looking at? Okay.
Stability we'll get onto in a second, but that ranges from -100 to 100, so that's a lot of stability. So privileges are both very powerful for us, but also for the estates themselves. The estates should be worked with, but be wary that they have their own agenda that might not always line up with yours. Looking up a little bit, we have here King Edward III. Plantagenet, he's 24 and he's male. This is our ruler. Underneath him, you can see his various stats. They go from 0 to 100, and there's no mana generation here. This is a representation of his skills in each area. You can see as a ruler.
Oh, I see. The burgers are actually they're very wealthy. All right, they're gaining wealth, and it's because the number that I was looking at here for industry, this is not like a trade center, okay? I would want to look at like Kent is going to get more from commerce probably, right? No, you're still losing money. Who's not losing money from commerce? London, is that it? London? Calais? Maybe? Calais loses money? I don't get it.
Ruler, these are the different impacts that he has. If I look at him as a general, you can see the different effects his admin, diplo, and military have on that army. The other important numbers you can see are at the top here. We have ourselves our gold, our money. We have our stability, which, like I said, ranges from -100 to 100. Shout out Imperial Rome. We have our population. We have our legitimacy, our prestige, our diplomatic capacity, our war exhaustion, as well as our manpower and our sailors. I know the manpower and the sailors look very, very low.
Diplomatic capacity. What are the negatives for going
32
over
men and a
diplo
+5 increase monthly doesn't seem like enough.
Because you don't have mana
for an
anymore,
army,
right?
But don't worry, I'll explain it in a bit. For now though, let's go ahead and click on our capital of London. This is a lot of information to process at a glance, so let's break it down. Some of it is very obvious, like the province that it's in or the amount of people that there are, 67,004. The number in the middle here is the amount of control you have. This is our capital, so we have 100%, but if we look somewhere a little bit further afield, let's say York, that number drops off fast. We have only 25% here. As you can see, less control is worse for us. We can also see the maximum amount of control that is possible here. So if we look over here to the control map mode, you can see that control radiates out from your capital. This is decided by factors such as distance, as you can see, to York, but also things like geography. Something over a mountain is going to be much harder to control.
No control over Wales.
Having friendly troops in the area can make it easier. More control is
No way to
basically
confiscate the
always
sheep.
better because it means, shockingly, we have more control over a location. In an area with zero control, we get basically no benefit to having. I've said control too many times, it's lost all meaning. Going back to the
those
capital,
lawless barbarians
we can
in
see
Wales.
things like the prosperity, we can see the climate, and also other modifiers. I'm going to credit you, dear viewer, with some degree of intelligence here, so I don't feel like I need to explain what taxes are or what development is meant to represent. So let's focus on some things that might not be as obvious, such as what wheat is. Every province has its own base resource. In this case, it is wheat. You have 3 out of 7. It is level 3 out of 7. Each location has its own resource, and believe me, there are a lot of different resources. I can't really put off what I'm going to talk about next anymore, because if we talk about resources, we need to talk about markets, which means I have to click on this market map mode. As you can see, the world is
Dublin
divided
market.
into markets. Markets can be...
Ooh. Okay. Okay. What are the markets in meiou taxes? North Sea. Moving around the screen lags me. Never mind.
Both created and destroyed. Click on the London market here. I can show
Spawn
you
runs
the goods
horribly.
made or produced in a
Do
market.
people
are
play
sold
this?
on
Do
that
people actually play this? There's no way people actually fucking play this.
market and can be traded to other markets. Look, in the interest of time, let me summarize it for you and you'll see me mess with it later in the video. Populations buy from the markets that they belong to. If there's no good that they want or need in the market they have access to, then they can't have it. Populations will also starve if there's not enough food on the market. You can see the food stockpile over here. If I click over here and then onto trading, I can trade between markets. For example, I can import gold from Prague market to London. I can export from London to Bruges, and I make my profit in facilitating that trade and the difference in price. This means it is entirely possible to be a tiny city-state and make money through purely facilitating trade. I know this because Red Hawk and I did just that, making our own markets and then using the money to bully the rest of the HRE. But some of these goods are not just produced, but they are made. If I go back over here to London and I click on burger buildings, you can see here that, for example, there is a brewery that can be made. This takes the base resources and turns them into beer. My profit comes from the sale price minus the cost of production. Now note that different buildings will employ a different class. There are many buildings, not all of them economic in nature. Some of them have more societal benefits, but we'll get into what each of these do in a future video. Despite the fact that a filthy peasant cannot produce beer, especially if they are French, they don't have to stay that way. Population demographics as well as class can be in flux depending on the makeup of your society. Speaking of the makeup of your society, in a brilliant segue, let's have a look at societal values. These are the values that will
I assume we can press these buttons.
Set up your nation, or at least the identity of your nation. This is a binary scale that shifts over time. Let's have a look at centralization versus decentralization. We are 0.28.
Oh yeah, you encourage
the
one
way
over the other.
towards
Okay.
decentralization. We can also see the pressures pushing me in this direction. If I were to be fully centralized, these are the benefits that I would get. Combine that with a dozen different competing values from quantity to quality, conciliatory to belligerent, and you'll start to see how the fabric of your nation starts to form. But if you wanted to artificially push your nation in a direction, you'd use a cabinet member. And thanks to another seamless segue, I can now talk about cabinet members. If I go over here to the government tab and click on cabinet, you can see I have 2 slots. I can appoint a cabinet member, so I can select from any of these, and they all have differing skills and abilities.
Oh,
So each cabinet member can do a different thing. For example, increasing control, they could promote culture, they could expel... Oh, good heavens. Playing as Tunis, I'm going to declare war on Tlemcen. So I'm going to do that. Now you might think, Leith, you have 0 manpower, how does that work? Well, I cleverly set this up from the start, so let me elaborate. The year is 1337, and the concept of a professional army is alien to most nations. We rely on levies. We are going to be raising these guys up now, and they actually come straight from the fields, which means we are fighting with our population, with our economy. If we lose a lot to attrition or we lose them to a stack wipe, that's fewer men working the fields, and so it'll have a lasting effect on us going forwards. If I wanted to
can I make my
professional
people breed
army, I
faster?
can recruit regulars, but I'd need to build a sergeantry. I need to build one of these military buildings. That will then create manpower and the
sex
ability
now.
to create professional troops. I can select the composition directly. For now, though, we are going to be
Need a
using our guide with
demonstration,
20 sticks.
lady.
Armies need supplies. More complex armies, like professional armies, need different supplies, but everyone needs food. I currently have 0 food capacity. As you can see, my army brings its food from a source, in this case, the closest possible town to the border. This means if I were to dive all the way into Tlemcen, I'd have supply issues quite quickly. However, right here next to the border, I'm not
Food
suffering too
surplus
badly.
causes that.
Essentially,
Ah,
war in EU5 is
Civilization
balancing what you
5
can
logic.
do and what you can sustain.
Civilization
For example,
logic.
I could dive straight for some sieges and hopefully get a quicker war in, especially if I have things like cannons, which might be preferable to me if I don't have the economy for a longer slog, a war of attrition. A better trained, well-equipped army will damn near always beat a bunch of peasants with sticks, so bear that in mind.
It's a flurry, long time no see.
Or in this
Sup?
case, 11,909 men with sticks will beat 461 men with sticks pretty much instantly. So we've got 59% war score, so we can go ahead and take a bunch of territory. It's worth noting I can't take territory that I haven't occupied. Personally, I'm not a fan of this feature. I'll talk about this kind of stuff as well as more stuff that I like and dislike about the game in the impressions section of the video. So I go ahead and
God,
send
the
my
UI is
demand.
so
new
fucking
territories
horrible.
need to be integrated. This will happen over time. But I can assign a cabinet minister to speed things along. This is
I don't like
the
the
most
UI.
basic of overviews of EU5 you can possibly get. I'm trying to hit everything all at the same time. Like I said, I am pressed for time here, so I can't go into things like international organizations or a deep dive into trade and trade capacity, or even situations like the 100-Year War that's going on, or even the Black Death, which are very mechanically relevant. Or but even look at this. This is the balance screen. I didn't even show you what this is. You can see the taxation of different states, the expenses to help stability or legitimacy. I don't even have time to focus on the military and the various ways that you can set up your armies and blitz your enemies, or even show you how Hawk and I, as two city-states, took on Austria, Brandenburg, Bavaria, and Brabant all at the same time, again, as two tiny one-province miners. But don't worry, in future videos, I'll go over these things in detail, so make sure to like the video and subscribe, and I'm actually allowed to answer your questions, so put them in the comments and I will address them. For now though, let's dive into a game so you can see what this is like in motion, and after that I'll go through what I like about the game and what I think needs improving. I've been assured that Power-Ups won't blacklist me for this, so hopefully me being critical won't result in that. I'm sure it won't. Today we are going to be playing as Serbia. Some of you might be confused. Laith, why aren't you going for the Byzantines? Laith, why aren't you going for Tunis? Why aren't you going for England? The reason I'm going for Serbia is to my own detriment. If I want a view farm, I go for the Byzantines. If I want to min-max, I go for something else. The reason I'm going for Serbia is because I think it is a decently casual, friendly nation. I don't want to be min-maxing and showing you 100% how to play the game, because that doesn't help you if you're a casual player. And so, today, for this game,
He's talking about me, by the way, guys.
I'm just going to be playing quite casually. First things first,
I'm a casual.
And we're going to tax everyone to the max.
I do not know that the expand infrastructure button exists in EU4.
Off the back, so I'm going to create my own market. I'm going to create one right here in my capital. All right, it's cost me all of my money. And frankly, it's just because I like the idea of having my own market. Now, we have a lot of pots we need. We have a lot of unhappy states, a lot of unprofitable buildings, a lot of problems in Serbia. That's also an insane ruler. So first up, let's give ourselves some food production in agricultural cultivation and some autocracy. And then we're just going to hand out a bunch of privileges to make nice states like me. Rivals, let's kill the Byzantines, I think. We'll go after the Hungarians. I think we'll also go after the Bosnians. All right, we're going to stabilize our country for one cabinet action. The other one is going to be to increase control in our most populous area.
Okay, so that's...
over here in Vardar. So on a high military guy for
that's
this.
That's basically spending it.
A high
You're spending a resource to do something, and you have guys that support it. That's mana.
EU5, EU4, CK3, Imperator.
In different steps.
We'll play
basically,
board games,
you press buttons. Okay, it's a game about pressing buttons.
Pirates. Okay, I've never seen that before. I don't know how to do it.
It's a menu simulator.
Okay, there's the Turkish threat, which means the Ottoman situation has arrived. That doesn't really threaten me too much, because if I fight the Byzantines, the Ottomans are likely to give me money. And here's another reason why I wanted to play as Serbia. We actually have some flavor here. We have the making of a legendary...
meiou and taxes is crashing. Okay, no, we're back.
Figure and his steady hand will set forth and take what is rightfully ours. So...
cheer bits are mana if you think about it,
Upper Macedonia, Lower Macedonia, and Chaldiki during the life of our king, we
increases stability.
And we get our own international organization. So we are going to do that, and in fact, we're going to do that immediately.
Declare
also
war.
call in the Bulgarians, which I'm going to do. Let's declare the war, and we're immediately at war with the Byzantines, and let's raise our levies. I need to do this. Give them militias.
No longer valid rival.
Give the peasants militias, then they'll.
Who's the Atria Emperor right now?
Bohemia. All right, hopefully the Bulgarians can beat the Byzantines for me. At least they'll run to Constantinople. So morale goes down as you move, which I kind of like. It means you can't just like charge in from a distance, or at least if you do, it's a bit of a Hail Mary. And our king himself is going to lead it. There's 92 men. I like how it's represented as just one dude. Hey, he's running. He's gone. Our first fight. Here we go. 92 men versus 5,700. I think we're defending as well. We are defending. Lovely. Well, there you go.
Can I see the battle screen?
Distance, or at least if you do, it's a bit of a Hail Mary.
Did I miss something?
And our king himself is going to lead it. There's 92 men. I like how it's represented as just one dude. Hey, he's running. He's gone. Our first.
It's kind of cool that your armies had like a... you move your little dudes around.
Here we go. 92 men versus 5,700. I think we're defending as well. We are defending.
Totally wiped out. Every single one of them killed. No quarter. Prestige. So did Byzantium gain... no, what is that? War something. Is it a stack wipe? What's the leftmost? Army tradition? What does army tradition look like again? Star. What's the one on the right? The UI does. The UI looks like trash. It looks like trash.
Lovely. Well, there you go. He's gone. I think Epirus is coming as well, actually. All right. It's 1,000 men. That should be fine. Okay.
Game goes hour by hour now. Oh yeah, you're right. 1,400.
I kind of want to keep playing, but I'm not playing for me. I'm playing to show you, chaps. And because I'm playing to show you, I'll let you know what's going on here. So we have our different morale. These will go up and down as more units get involved. We have our reserves. We have our different infantry. There's a lot of stuff to do with initiative as well as to how this sort of stuff works. So we can see here we have 5 of our guys fighting one of theirs now. So they lost 1,000 troops. We lost 36.
I want to look more at that screen. Okay, so there's like a left, right flanks, and then a middle flank, and so the middle flank has a combat width of 4, and then the right and the left have combat widths of 3 or something.
One of theirs now. So they lost 1,000 troops. We lost 36 to balance out this unit. Make sure all flanks are good to go. And battles are very quick when you're on the higher speeds because they only take place over a matter of hours. All right, and that's their army basically all done.
Are you saying I can't have a battle for 400 days?
So they have like
I can't sit there and reinforce
they have
morale.
And they have Larissa down here I need to go deal with. Please win that. Oh god, Bulgaria. That's, to be fair, that's a lot more Byzantine troops than I was expecting. Okay, we're gonna fight them ourselves now. Should be fine
very
here.
small.
We'll do a lot of damage.
I wonder how it's gonna work when you have armies that are like 1 million troops, you know?
Which will also take a lot of damage. So we took 2,500 casualties. We dealt 4,000.
Each flank is a frontage and it gets filled on the start with some troops, and they can get more up to combat.
Our own. How Bulgaria? Where did the Bulgarians get stack wiped? Oh my god, they did. They have 13 troops. How did they die? So I've had a massive increase in income because I'm manually doing my trades. So army sizes don't have to hit a certain threshold, which means we have 1 man, 1 infantry unit. He's gonna run around and do things himself. All right, I think that's victory to me. I mean, we have essentially everything we need. So what the AI thinks we should do. It wants me to dismantle fortifications in Constantinople. Very cool. All right, we're gonna take Central Macedonia. We're gonna take Chalkidiki, we're gonna take there. It's a good amount of antagonism.
Okay, war screens.
Essentially aggressive expansion. I think we're okay. I mean, they'll give it to us. I don't really see a need in fighting on. Let's do it. Cool. And Lower Macedonia is starving. That's okay. They'll get over it. A lot of those guys are still in the Constantinople market, which I don't like. So what I'm gonna do now is essentially mess around with these trades. So then I sort out getting as much profit as possible, basically. You can see all these guys have now suddenly joined us. Market traction is towards us, which is good. There we go. Dawn of a new empire. Fantastic. So we become an empire, we gain antagonism, but we get a new autocephalous patriarchate, which means that we're on our own little international organization. Sorry, that's a 1427. You know what, buddy? You just focus on increasing control. That's what you're good at. So we're now called the Serbian Empire, which is nice. Those of you wondering, well, the reason
Why is it so easy to make empires so early? You can't just call everything a fucking empire, man. You can't just call everything an empire. That's not how it works.
One of the missions is because I don't like these serve to kind of guide you. I don't really value the bonuses that they give you.
Serbia's unique flavor thing at the start.
Expansions of our RGOs have
the Chile Empire.
Otherwise, we're just getting
British
some base
Empire.
resources going, and then some Tailors Guilds.
English Empire of Angevin Empire.
Try and keep them happy a little bit. As you can see, some resource gathering operations are missing employees. The reason for this is because they died in the fields. A bad battle could really go a long way to damaging your economy. And you can see right now, I could potentially go to war, but I really don't want to. Not just because of aggressive expansion.
Force relocate pops.
Down, but I kind of need to integrate these provinces. I need to bounce back and sort out my economy. I need to sort out my trades. There's a lot I need to do before I feel comfortable enough to take the same risk that we did against the Byzantines. Hey, over here you can see what they're trying to do. They're aiming to build a local assembly.
I love this. 1% increased trade efficiency.
They like and dislike. So if we're friends with the Bulgarians, then our peasants are going to like us. Like I said in the tutorial aspect of this video, all the estates have their own kind of vibes. I just appointed him to the cabinet and he immediately died. He was killed by a wild animal, presumably on the way. I'm going to build a marketplace over here and over here and over here. The reason I'm building a marketplace is that gives us more trade capacity, more trade
Meiou
capacity.
tax is covered in my favorite button. Mercantilism, increased mercantilism is no longer here.
More trades. Serbian culture influences
my
Greek
favorite
culture tradition. There are also like culture wars, which is a scary thing to say on the internet, but yeah, culture wars exist in this game. Well, if it isn't the Black Death. Oh boy. So we're actually going to immediately isolate our country, and we're going to procure remedies. Oh, here we go. Black Death is spreading.
Can I
It's right
pretend to
inside
not
our
know what
country,
to
I'm not
do
sure
when the
where.
Black Death
It's right next to us in Albania. Is that a safe place? This place doesn't have any plague. Neither does Nis. Black Death only has its greedy little paws in one more place, and I think it'll be done by the end of the month, for us at least. In total, it's claimed 140 million people, 36
more
million
than
that are
half your
coming
pops,
from
though?
the Great
Yeah, but
Yuan.
wasn't the consequence of that like increased power of trade or something? If you don't know what to do, pretend it doesn't exist. Yeah.
As bad as well. Actually, the thing they roughly
Time
did
to
have
pray.
as bad as we did. They started with 800k and dropped to 500k.
Here's your Bible.
We also had about 30% die.
Suddenly there wasn't a
Oh,
food
I'll take 30
shortage.
buckets, yes, please. But we're in a good place to kickstart our economy once more. You can see that our income didn't really drop, and that's because I make most of my money
My
from
lord!
trading. At the
There's no
moment,
one to work the fields,
versus my
everyone's
own
dead!
tax base. See here, trade income is 130 or 100, over 100 ducats, whereas our other taxation's not really that much. So we now have to
no one to
wait
work the fields, my
for
lord.
all areas of the Black Death, all these little dots, to disappear for the situation to actually end, which I'm not a fan of. And speaking of things I'm not a fan of, I think that
I don't know if you guys
conclude our
noticed, but oh wait,
gameplay
never mind.
portion
I'm not.
the video, and now we'll move on to my sort of final thoughts. What I like about the game, what I don't like
Starting
about
to
the
Black
game.
Monday kills
I'll
1/3
give
of
more
people.
in-depth detail.
What's the effect that this will have on the economy?
We've made it to the unfiltered lathe opinion portion of the video. Paradox isn't sponsoring this. They haven't been able to tell me what I can and can't say, which means I get to say some things
Give
that
me
I
your
like
worst.
and some things I think need to be addressed.
The UI.
Let's start with the positives, because I like being positive. The first thing is it feels like an overhaul, something completely fresh. One of the main criticisms,
different enough for me
which
to
doesn't
wanna
even
play
make any sense, that I was seeing online is that people were concerned it was going to be EU4 2. It was going to be European Universalis, but with fewer features than EU4. I don't think, and you can tell by looking at this video, anyone can ever complain about that. This is a completely different game. You could just call it Europa Universalis, and I think it might be more apt than EU5. I think it borrows a lot of mechanics from a lot of other Paradox Grand Strategy games. I think we're seeing a culmination of all of these different things. I think that was the aim going forward, having spoken to the devs and to Johan when I was filming the announcement trailer.
That's what I was hoping for too, guys. I said this a couple times. I was like, you know what? I want
dynamism is
I want the game to be different enough from EU4 that I'll have a different experience. Even if like I'll need to wait for a couple DLCs for the game to be complete, it's gonna have a different enough experience that I won't just go back to
with the
EU4.
selecting of text, what with the selecting of different aspects in terms of an age, with the different societal values. I think it's incredibly dynamic and customizable and changes throughout the course of the game, so you have a sense of that story. And I think that's quite important, because this is not a game to blob or where you're just painting the map. It is more a story. Think CK3 in terms of something bad happens and you bounce back. And I think that was one of the big ideas behind having the Black Death devastating and early on. It teaches the player that you can have something horrible happen, a third of your population gone, and you can bounce back, and to not just quit the game if you lose a battle or if you lose a war or something bad happens. I think they are trying to encourage this idea of resilience towards issues and make it more of a realistic
I don't know how much money they
overview,
lost
because
from Imperator.
if you play EU4, for
I
example,
don't know, but I felt like the going up on stage in a Roman outfit and going Carthago delenda est was a bit too exciting for what Imperator ended up being, you know?
your trajectory is like that. You barely even lose a battle. You just go straight up, and it's a slow build. And I think facing adversity is something that players are going to need to learn, and I think it's a lot more fun because of it. However, I'm not going to tell you how to enjoy your video games. If you don't like facing adversity, then you might not find what you're looking for here. But my main concern is that the gameplay is slow. The footage you're seeing behind me is some footage that I recorded as England in the 100 Years' War, just sort of feeling it out, playing it for the first time, and so I'd have footage to go over this portion of the video. And it took me about an hour to win the war against France. I did 3 years in the game. It took me a long time, and it was a stomp. France was busy elsewhere, and so I took an opportunity to seize on that. And
an hour for 3 years? And the game's gonna slow down over time. Oh no, it's a 500-year game. I'm not spending 200 hours in one game of EU4.
Yeah, it took a phenomenally long time. That's because there are so many moving parts, so much you have to consider. That isn't in itself a bad thing, but it can get a little tedious. And the answer to that is the automation system, which I think is a great idea, especially if you're trying to learn the game. I certainly switched it on while I was trying to learn. The problem is that you can't tell the automation system what you want to do. It doesn't know. It's going to pick what the AI thinks is optimal. And so if you're building towards something, or you're trying to maximize money or a certain aspect of your economy, then it doesn't do what you want it to. But let's not just sort of moan and say things I don't like. Let's be critical about this. What do I think could be improved? What aspects? Well, firstly, I think, and this is a bit of a microcosm for me, I think that the idea that you have to take a province in order to take it in a war, you have to occupy it to take it in a war, I don't like it at all. I think it slows down things a lot. I think this is a balancing act. You can't just say, okay, well, you've won 3 wars and you haven't occupied any territory. You get everything, but I don't like that as a core mechanic. You can, of course, an OCB, unless you're in the HRE, which slows HRE gameplay down. I think this does need to be retooled as a priority.
The EU4 system where you can't take provinces in Fort's zone of control, I think that's like a good middle ground.
I don't like that I'm being slowed down.
Were you the only one who used different start dates? Yes.
It feels very
Yes, you were the only one who.
Speaking of all these different things interconnecting and slowing you down, if you're a new player, I think you're going to struggle a lot. There is no tutorial right now, so I personally had to try and teach myself how to play the game. You're talking to other content creators. We're like trying our hardest, and to be clear, a lot of us, this is our full-time job, so we have the time to invest. I think the tutorial that comes into this and the tip system has to be perfect, or approaching perfect, to be able to tell new players what to expect and how to play the game. Currently, I think the mission system does that. You'll see in my gameplay that I didn't really touch it. I was hoping for more of an imperator system, which is a bit more dynamic and adds a lot of flavor. However, the mission system right now, I don't even feel like taking a mission, because the time taken to complete the missions and the investment I put in doesn't really do anything for me in terms of the rewards I get. I do feel like right now they're there to teach players how to play versus any sort of benefit, which I'm not too much of a fan of, because I think missions could add quite a lot. The resounding dominant opinion amongst the content creators that I've spoken to is that the game is more fun after 20 years than the first 20 years. The first 20 years are a little bit of a slog, and I think that's quite damaging. I think a lot needs to be done to help speed that kind of that initial process up. So now to my concerns going forwards. What do I think could potentially damage this game? Right now, imagine you have your room, the room you're sitting in right now. Let's say I, for whatever reason, decide to walk in and I have 5 minutes to mess up the place as badly as possible. I'm spilling your drinks, I'm flipping your furniture, I've trashed the place completely. When you go in and I tell you to clean the room, you're going to focus on the big stuff first. So you're going to flip your table back over, you're going to put your PC back on the stand. The first 10 minutes that you spend cleaning have the most impact because you're doing the big stuff. And the more time you spend cleaning, the more you start getting down to nitty gritty. It takes you a lot longer to achieve the same kind of result, hoovering the room, that sort of thing. The reason I bring this up as an analogy is because when it comes to the game in its current state, the big stuff is done. The game is playable, I can enjoy myself, but we're now at the point where there's 101 tiny little things. A button that doesn't do anything. Things like the black death not disappearing when it leaves your country. You have to wait for everyone to disappear. There are a load of tiny things that can be overlooked.
Give me a nice
stylized map. A lot of tweaking needs to go on in the Serbia gameplay. You would have seen that I was making about
What is this blue color? What? I'm gonna bitch for
a lot of tweaking needs to go on in the Serbia gameplay.
What is this blue color? What is this inspired by? Is it inspired by anything at all?
The scene that I was making about 100 ducats from just trade, and then about 10 from taxation. It feels very heavily skewed in favor of trading and markets.
This red and this blue do not match. They don't match. They don't match.
versus tax bases, which I don't think was going to be the norm in terms of 1337 nations beyond merchant republics. So in conclusion, what do I think of Europa Universalis 5? I think we're onto something. I think this game could be really, really good. I think we're on the brink of teetering towards greatness or something
make it blue, paint it black.
If all the bugs get
Like
fixed, if the performance is good, if the
goes
flavor
on.
is added, and the systems intertwine like they're meant to, I think we have something really amazing. If that mark has fallen short from, the game is so big and so complicated that I think it's going to struggle. But I am optimistic. Like I said, I've met the team. But I am optimistic. I've met the team. This is a labor of love. They know what they're doing. And so I'm trusting and I'm fairly certain that they will be able to deliver. Now, Paradox have given me and other content creators access. Why have they done this? This isn't a marketing campaign in terms of us being paid. So why are we getting this access? And I'll explain it to you. This is not Paradox's point of view. This is mine. They want your opinion. They want you at home to see these videos, and they want to see what's the dominant opinion is, what should be changed, what should be picked up on. My access to Europa Universalis 5 is going to be revoked alongside all the other content creators. That doesn't mean we're not allowed to talk about it. So make sure to like the video and subscribe. If you want to see more Europa Universalis 5 based content, I can use my footage that I've taken to create more videos and explain mechanics more in detail. And I'd love to hear your opinions and your questions, and I'll answer them as best as I can.
I mean, I agree.
I've tried to go through this entire thing with the mindset of someone who is picking up the game for the first time or is more of a casual
UI design
player,
last
because I
very
think that
clearly.
min-maxers are going to love this game. My only concern is it an enjoyable experience for the average grand strategy gamer? So far, kinda. With some polish, absolutely.
It sure looks like a video game, guys. That sure looks like a video game. I play the Iroquois. The UI should be made of carved wood and animal skins. CK2 and 3 does change the UI slightly depending on the region. No, maybe. I can assume that you're right. I have katanas on my border of the UI playing Japan. I just wanna have like they they homogenize these UI windows so that they all fit into this like 1/3 screen panel. Do you guys know what frames are in old website design? Do you guys know what frames are? Framing theory. Picture frames. It's this is old. This is like NeoCities. I don't know. There used to be a HTML option to put like a sidebar on your page, and that was like the main page, and you can like hide the sidebar all the time. They brought it, people bring the shit back, but it's ugly. All right, it's ugly, and it's like 1/3. It's like 1/3 of the page. HTML frames have been deprecated for a long ass time. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, why does your UI look like that? Why does your UI look like HTML3? The only thing I dislike about the Vic3 UI was the excessively large buttons with small text. UI sucks in its placeholder. There's like, okay. There's, let me go back to the video. Let me see if I can find examples to show you guys. Of what's in my head. So like, it's using this exact same like 1/5 of the screen for every single like menu for doing stuff, but because it's just using that one fit screen and not changing the size of buttons, or they're like splitting it out into sections, and this is like coded into the UI in like a moddable way, which is fine. Like that makes sense, but it means that you're getting these sections where you need like these scroll bars, which I don't know why it's like this. And then sometimes there's like a scroll bar for the entire thing. I don't know if I can find it like this. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. Can I get... Oh. Okay, YouTube's being ass. But like, sometimes these sections here, you can see it in the big blacked out thumbnail. The entire screen has like a scroll bar on that left side. And in my head, I'm like, there's absolutely a better way to organize this. So you're saying this should make you press A to swap pages of text instead of scrolling? Yeah. I love this. This is so cool. But yeah, okay. I mean, I think it's pretty clear it's a placeholder. It makes sense. It's just not great to look at. And it takes away from some of the charm. Mechanically, I'm sure the game is fine. I don't know, because I haven't touched it. And I don't know if I'm getting enough information here to really know what's going on. Monthly consumption of food. The tooltips are a lot nicer. Like, I like their new system of tooltips where you can hover over and it'll stay in place, then you can hover over another thing, and another thing, and another thing. To be honest, E4 doesn't have a great UI. It doesn't, you're right, but it has like its own style. It's not afraid of, this is meiou and taxes. It's not afraid of like having differently shaped windows for different things. You guys can't even see. It's not afraid of having differently sized windows for different things if it thinks it'll organize the information better. Right? It's not afraid to pop out stuff on the side, like, whoa, building manager. This is the best video on EU5 so far. Watch this one.
発表されましたヨーロッパユニバーサリス5めでてプロジェクトシーザーとして1年以上開発日記の投稿が続いているグランドストラテジーがついにお披露目。なんと我らがパラドシンよりご招待いただき本作のアーリーアクセス版を先行プレイさせていただきました。感謝感激。本動画ではゲーム序盤の様子を実況していきますのでどんな雰囲気なのかを楽しんでいってくださいね。本作はまだ開発中という点には留意しておいてね。仕様や UI はまだまだブラッシュアップ中とのことだ。また要素が膨大なので全てに触れることは不可能です。いずれ別の機会があればその時にでも。ではいざ国家選択。EU 法の開始年から遡ること1世紀。ゲーム開始年は1337年。パクスモンゴリアに陰りが見え始めている時代。英仏100年戦争、国死病と世界はまた動乱の時代に突入しようとしています。日本はちょうど南北朝時代に突入したところだね。足利尊氏が実権を握っている状態。お隣の中華は元の知性ですが、なんででしょう。時に大乱が起きる気がします。なんでだろうな。欧州はこんな感じ。西欧は馴染みがある状況ですが HRE は大変な地図に点描みたい。I
understand completely.
フランスも諸侯が細かく分かれておりいろんなプレーができそうです。フランスとして統合を目指すか諸侯から成り上がっていくか。一方の東欧は群雄割拠。ルーシが分裂しポーランド、リトアニアがこれから伸びようとしています。モスクワからロシア建国を目指すプレーも歯ごたえが増してるかも。
How does this one? 25. Did they give everyone who reviewed a half hour exactly? Is that the way they did this? Even Corbett, 30-minute video. Generalist Gaming, 30 minutes. 30 minutes was the limit. I wonder how similar all of these videos are gonna be. Like, if I search EU5, can I find a video? Do you think there's someone who's gonna have a video that's specifically about one mechanic? Like a 30-minute deep dive into exactly one mechanic? I think they're told to stay pre-1500. Unlimited levies, Ireland. Gameplay, first impressions. I don't know if there's gonna be any deep dives. I feel like... Because, I mean, everyone's gonna do that kind of video, right? I think someone should have done, like, a video about one specific mechanic. There's an economic deep dive one. Paradox might have told him not to. Fair. Fair. Well, it seems like, at the very least, people were allowed to have, or for the 30-minute videos, they were allowed to say whatever they wanted. Entire video is super speed, very deep economy. This guy.
Hello, happy Friday. I got access to an early version of EU5 in order to make a video, but keep in mind it will be an early version, so there will be bugs and issues. I have 30 minutes. We're going to talk about economics. To start, the basis of all economics here in EU5 is going to be goods, of which there are an enormous amount. They have not just a base price value, but a price that is manipulated by supply and demand, which is going to function a lot of the interesting relationships for the game. These are going to be contained within your own market. However, on a broader scale, you can influence other markets through trade, and this is going to be an enormous source of value. Goods can be produced in one of two ways. There can be RGOs, or resource gathering operations, which will get the base level goods, and then there can also be buildings which will use PMs, or production methods, in order to produce stuff using
just like
the inputs gathered through RGOs or from other buildings. Your two main sources of income are taxing the estates, whose value is determined by the sell prices of all the buildings in the RGOs, and trade, which
Determined by what?
Determined by the sell prices of all the buildings in
Determined by the sell prices of all the buildings. Is that supposed to represent like wealth or capital or
the
something?
RGOs, and trade, which is determined between the difference between one market's price and another market's price, less the trade expenses of running the buildings that facilitate trade. The two main negative downward pressures on the economy are going to be control, which is a multiplier for how much value you get out of a location to the tax base. This is an anti-blobbing mechanic, and market access, where the amount of goods that you produce in a location is multiplied by the degree to which it has a greater access to the market. Strategically speaking, most of what we'll be doing is focusing on trying to have as much control as possible in the territories we own. Let's take a look at our unique situation in here in Korea so that we can formulate a bit of a strategy. Now, if we look at our resources, we have a lot of gold, we have gems, we have pepper, and we also have silver. All of these export really well, and so you can see we're already making a ton of money through trade. We are going to look to push these specifically, as well as push trade, and also be a little bit more backward with the economics, specifically leaning on resources rather than production. Longer term,
I mean,
we
to
need
be
think
fair,
about
it
our
is
kind of geographic
1337.
and also our vegetative situation. Geographically, we have
Do we
a lot
have
of hills and
mercantilism
mountains,
yet?
which
Aren't
kind
we
of
all
comes with the
subsistence
territory
farmers
as it relates to some of these better
in
resources.
the
But the flatlands are
pre-Renaissance,
going to be where we make our
proto-Renaissance?
bigger cities, or are going to be very nice for big cities, and also anywhere on the coast. So we will have a nice power base here. Also, we can propagate control through the waterways eventually. So ideally, we'd like to make a power base here in the bay as best we can, and also look to push things. Now, coming in and looking at the vegetation, you can see we have some farmlands here. We
I mean, like the concept of mercantil, like maximizing exports or whatever.
love to push up into here, and also there is a little bit down here. And
You
down
probably to make money, you probably want to have, you probably want to maximize your exports in the game to profit off of trade in like a region that you control or something.
Here in terms of
As opposed to having your internal market where you import goods and then export high value.
The river
stuff
map
or
mode
why I
takes
guess you
forever to
have
load, so
as
we
also
won't show it. But there's a river that goes through here, and there's a river that goes through here. A long-term strategic plan is going to be making a river canal system
Money's a
through
finite
to this top right corner, so that we can propagate control along the coast up here, and also one down here so that we can propagate some control down into the right where we have this major population center and make use of those pops. In addition to control, some other things we are going to track are going to be our literacy rate,
I'm loan maxing.
also our overall
I'm
level
printing
of
money.
development, and finally, and probably most importantly, our level of urbanization. Here are states. Pause if you want to read.
Ooh, 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 thank
Our
you.
level of urbanization.
Thank you. Estates. Estate privileges. Commoners in the administration, fewer levies. Commoners allowed in cabinets, yes. Monthly progress to decentralization. Oh, so that's going to affect your values, giving them different privileges. Monthly progress to free subjects. Monthly progress to free subjects. Monthly progress to capital, economy, production efficiency. Okay, so giving estates privileges is going to affect your values tab and give you a benefit, and then also make them more powerful and happier and more influential. Okay, basically.
Here are states. Pause if
Market. Did I see market attrition?
Our level of urbanization.
Market attraction. Okay. Market attraction. What would that do?
Here are states. Pause if you want to read. Building all those expensive resources with marketplaces at the outskirts because these are not dependent on control, and then everything that we need to have close to the capital, like the masons, we are putting close to the capital. Masonry
Market
is
attraction
going to be
pulls
important
land
because if we
into
can
your
collapse the
node.
price on that, we
Because
can get
nodes
a
are
hefty
dynamic,
discount
right.
on buildings, and we are going to do that for most buildings, even the ones that require more complex goods. We first collapse the price.
I assume market attraction is going to be determined by something like the existence of different trade goods. Like the more trade goods that you have in your nodes, the higher the attraction is going to be, or something, or value, or some
Price
other
of the
number.
inputs, and then we invest in a massive wave of buildings. We also
gonna be a
pick up
bunch
our
of different
first
things that
law.
affect
Pause if
it,
you want to
and
read
then also
our other
estates.
ones. Lack of qualified individuals, in this case laborers, is one of the reasons we can't just keep pushing these resources up to their very cap. We use our cabinet here to encourage migration. Part of our long-term plan, we need a string of cities with 25,000 pops. So for our plan, we need up to their very cap. We use our cabinet here to encourage migration. Part of our long-term plan, we need a string of cities with 25,000 pops. So for our parliamentary debates, generally we're going to want either conduct a census, because that's a lot of pop growth, or expand gravel road network. For now, this will be good for us because roads will be very
Why does
good.
conducting a census give you pop growth instead of giving everyone sex,
And very cheap
sexing
for
everyone,
us right now, but it's more about progressing
going
towards
around the
centralization.
kingdom
if you
and
want to
having
see
sex.
values we want to trend towards, so feel free to pause. Here is updated if you want to see the values we want to trend.
Capital economy is dominant skills up to building cost, food production minus capital economy versus what a capital economy versus a subsistence economy. So you'd have increased food production, increased bank interest, and then some other benefits from having a subsistence economy. I don't know. Traditional economy.
And towards it, feel free to.
Centralization versus decentralization, sinicized. I assume that's going to be an Eastern exclusive thing. Is that how they're going to do Westernization for post Age of Exploration? There's going to be a societal value if you're playing like a North American tribe or somewhere in East Asia, you get a westernized societal value.
Pause. Here is updated control around the capital after building some roads into it. At the start of every age, you will get the choice between 3 focuses, which will change your tech tree. We're going to go with administrative, and
different techs depending on a choice you make at the beginning of an age is weird. Is there going to be tech spread? How
This is a
severe
feature
these
I
differences
rather
are
like
going
here
to be?
in EU5 is every playthrough can be customizable. You're going to choose what tech you get. You can only get around 50 to 75% per age. And so by choosing which techs you want to get, you are going to shape your country not just for that given age, but for all ages to come, as you will keep and retain
How
these
balanced are these
bonuses.
If I pick military, am I just going to be able to dab on someone who picks administrative or economic or something?
We wait until we collapse the price.
You
and then
don't
take
ever get the
loans to
techs from other
upgrade
focuses
7
ever?
towns at once.
So these aren't
which
going to
is
be
going to give
techs
us more-
like these aren't going to be techs like muskets, right? It's like EU4 ideas. So it's not going to be like tech differences in having muskets versus not having muskets, right? Right?
more control and allow us to build newer types of buildings, more of the production-oriented buildings. Generally speaking, when evaluating this, you want to not build over good resources or bad terrain or vegetation, but in this case, it all works for us to just be building around the capital, where we have a lot of control and market access. We start to build some roads connecting the very best resources like gold and gems to the capital that are nearby to give us more control, to give us more output. So we've hit a bit of an inflection point where we have a robust
Smaller
enough economy
bonuses.
that we can start going for buildings that don't really benefit the economy, but instead benefit the nation, like the Confucian School, which is unique to the Koreans. We've already collapsed the price, so we're going to spam them everywhere. If we look at our economy, we're still wildly profitable per trade power on all of our trades, so we're going to keep doing what we're doing. To move and look at the balance, we are making 400 in trade, less than 140 in trade expense, and we're making a little bit of money in
Trade expenses. Hold on. Hover over that again.
less.
Because you're buying certain goods. So trade income is going to come from exports.
Doing, to move and look at the balance, we are making 400 in trade.
Did he? No, he didn't even hover over the trade income. He hovered over diplomacy.
Less than
It's over.
140 in trade expense, and we're making a little bit of money in the taxes. What I'm trying to say is the economy's going really well. I hope nothing bad happens. So the Black Plague hits. Hopefully it doesn't kill too many of our pops. So 1.2 million of our 3 million pops.
It's very
died
weird to
of the
call it
plague.
technology. Yeah, when you call it technology, I'm like, okay, I have Miltech 16 and I'm colonizing and I'm gonna stomp over the natives because they have Miltech 6 or something, right? To represent like the tech differences during colonization or something. If like, how are you going to catch up? How are they going to represent the gap historically? And then how are they going to represent the catching up part? Right? Where does that come from? Surely that doesn't come from the technology tree. That would come from what, ideas or something? Or do you, are there going to be separate tech groups and then you have to swap to like Western tech group or Eastern tech group or something if you're playing natives? Sold on it or getting it out of obligation? It's different enough from EU4 that I'm pretty sold on it. Like I said this before, I said this 6 months ago. So long as EU5 is sufficiently different from EU4 that I don't feel like I'm just getting the same game but less, I'm gonna play it.
But at least little Timmy's gonna make it home for Christmas. I'm being told little Timmy's not gonna make it home for Christmas. Overall, this is kind of 40% of the pops is relatively good performance. We're not sure the best strategy on this yet, but in order to rebuild, we are building settlements everywhere. The depopulated areas allow us to build settlements, and this has a ton of population growth. Also, in a ton of our
Really good
areas, the
mating press after the
qualified
Black
people
Death.
are dead, so it's going to take a while to recover, and even if we build more buildings, it won't do anything. If we add cotton here, there's still not enough workers to work everything. Following the Black Death, we did a massive rebuild project, putting in a bunch of bridges, roads, and things that employ people that weren't burghers or laborers because they were all dead. Stuff like schools as well as temples. We took on a massive amount of debt in order to do this, knowing we would spike prices for some time. We also
How am I
converted a
doing?
bunch of towns
I'm
to cities,
locked into
settlements to towns,
EU5.
and we are looking to make sure that they are
This
never
is-
idle.
this seems interesting.
So here is also our current level of urbanization, which is quite a bit big come up, also very notable.
Debt-based, yeah.
This is going to be the future capital here.
Loan maxing.
And it's quite a bit more expensive.
And yet another
so
game.
things are coming quite along. And in terms of our decision making, we are starting to draw a path towards the 2 canals we want, because the
You're not really
towns will
supposed
grow
to
a
catch
little
up
bit better.
except organically. EU5 seems to try to show inequality much more. Okay. Okay. I mean, I kind of get it. It seems like for every mechanic, there's some kind of pressure against, like, doing one thing too much, right? So it seems like there's pressure against blobbing super hard with the control mechanic, and then you can only take captured provinces and peace deals. Like, having these provinces is going to be expensive. Or having too many provinces than your administration can support control over is going to be expensive. I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of funny to play Iroquois and get Tech 18 and spawn printing press.
Population, so we're setting ourselves up for that. We have next our northern neighbor here. With this, we gain an additional economic challenge / opportunity, which is now we have 2 markets, which adds a layer of complexity. Before we were just collapsing prices in the Kaesong. Now we need to collapse prices in Liaoyang if we want to build within that market. But we have a new opportunity in the sense, and this might be something that's very powerful, that we have market access in yet another spot, spawning it, so we have opportunities for profitable buildings if we can manage prices. So
I don't think I saw this in EU in the peace deals, but like, why is there not like options to have like basically land swapping? You know, for peace deals, like, okay, well, I want this province that gives salt because I lack that in my market, compared to giving you one of my cow provinces because I beat you in a war and I have plus 15% war score. Why is that not like an option? That's how it worked historically too. Yeah, that's what I mean. It to me it seems more interesting to be able to do something like that than being forced to occupy land and then only being given the option to trade it. You have to basically win every war 100% outright, rather than having these sort of balanced, not white pieces, Treaty of Westphalia, whatever.
So both Dock and Bark are going to be some critical texts for us to acquire here in order to integrate these newly acquired territories and properly spread control to them. This is the current sad state of affairs when it comes to maritime control over our waters. This is the proximity map mode, which shows how much logistical power is spent to travel 1 unit within your empire. Currently, to travel one of these sea segments, we're spending around 31. We can get that down to about 3 with enough maritime presence and other modifiers. Here's an updated look at development. You can see that the mountains, which have a negative modifier for development, are starting to show through on our development map mode. And here's a look at literacy, where you can see all the infrastructure we have been building. The civilian infrastructure is making a big difference. Largely because it's a better natural harbor, which will let us disembark for cheaper. We move both the capital and market center to Inju, and we can start building some capital buildings we've been holding off on. So just by getting a tiny bitted merchant marine and building docks between both of the capital and this little peninsula, we've reduced the distance of the segment from 30 to 13. So we upgrade 14 settlements up into towns, so urbanizing quite a bit here, and also this town into a city. We do need to make a line of cities, and to that end, we are still promoting migration along this line. We need to get each of these settlements / towns
those arrows are crazy.
5k pop before we can upgrade it to a city, giving us powerful bonuses from it being a city, but more importantly, lets us build a specific building. We are going to add a couple slaver buildings, which, given, you know, Korea's history with slavery, is RP, but more importantly, it's going to allow us to send people to the frigid north.
What's that clip from that one podcast? Korea had the longest uninterrupted institution of slavery of any country in history.
They understandably don't really want to go and work. This is the building we were referring to earlier, the Pound Lock Canal, which reduces the distance cost to capital. If you stack enough modifiers that decrease this, you will hit a floor of 1 distance, and that is a lot easier to hit if you have 5 of these Pound Lock Canals. So this is the canal. This is very much the idea. We will get started on these right away, doing a 5 drop, starting to head out towards the coast this way. If we take a look at our control, we should be able to see we're starting to get hundreds in a few places, but once we finish these canals, that 100 or the kind of higher numbers will start to spread over into this area. 50-year update here. Here's our maritime presence.
So does control propagate easier through having certain infrastructure, roads, canals, etc.?
Which is why they are able to get 100 control there. Increasingly, we're going to see that on the entirety of the west coast.
That's pretty cool.
Also related to control.
That's a cool mechanic.
I think an important play pattern, which is that we have released several subjects.
That's I like that. I actually, you know what? I like that. I like that a lot.
But they can, and so this allows us to get some usage
that's
out
pretty
of this
cool.
territory by having these subjects a little bit far away. Also coming into literacy, we have a bunch of things that are adding to literacy, and we currently have the highest in the world as far as we know it.
The hell even plays Korea, bro? Korea's really strong.
In the places where we have upgraded settlements to towns. This is also our level of development. We are doing very, very well in the capital, but we've been encouraging development in this capital province the entire time, and it does have some key locations that we are going to use to connect these canals, and development helps to propagate control, because every percentage of development is going to decrease the distance needed for the capital. But also just wanted to note how interestingly the development map mode lines up very, very neatly with the topography map mode, because that is a negative drain on development. So you do see that very strong correlation there. There are a couple of inflection points in the market for us here. First of all, it is difficult for us to collapse the price of wood. The burgers will import at the base price, but the more advanced goods, which we have started
The music is so dramatic.
to dabble into in order to build these higher tier buildings, they do require wood, and so it is harder for us to get wood cheap in the economy as much as we're trying to do it, and so we might just have to tolerate buying stuff at base price for wood. We also see manufactured goods.
This is like Elden Ring. This is Elden Ring music.
Here in our trades list in both porcelain and lacquerware, which we could produce, which is something that's unique to the East. I don't know who all can produce it, but we also see that we're getting under 1 gold per trade power on some of our lower tier trades, and so we are going to be having a shift where we are starting to develop and earn a little bit less from trade. You can see we are getting around 500 from trade, the income less the expense, and a little bit more from taxes, although still mainly from trade. We are getting around 230 from taxes here. Also, a point we wanted to make is that the place where we had 55 market access at the start of the video, or 53, as a result of all of our reductions in proximity, now it has more market access. It's up to 69%, and so
I assume proximity isn't an actual measure of like physical distance. It has to do with infrastructure, right? That seems to be what he was implying, because he moved the capital to a better natural harbor, and there was shorter distance between the harbor and somewhere else. So that's not an actual.
So it is more
distance,
profitable to build outward. Since we are switching to being more manufacturing minded here, it's worth pointing out something we've been playing around this entire time, which is that there are negative modifiers due to market access, but there's also positive modifiers, and one that we kind of wanted to point out is that there is vertical integration. By having iron, which is an input for tools, here in this location, we get plus 10% production, and we also have 4 levels in the building, so there's economies of scale. So even though we have this negative market access modifier due to the loud car outside, we are still producing 4 tools with a level 4 tools guild here in this province location. We won't be able to show it here because we can only show the Age of Renaissance, but it is noteworthy that you can unlock higher tier buildings, which will allow you to specialize in goods and allow you to export the particular things and import from
okay, so they are supposed to stay before
different
1500.
ones, and they're not all in one tech tree like administrative or diplo. For example, the military tree does have the gun workshop here in the Age of Reformations. We discover the new world. Not trying to cover war here, but Ming Coalition CBs us, but they're gonna have a real hard time. Not trying to cover war here in the Age of Reformations.
Discovery of a new world, and what year is this? $1387?
We discover the new world. Not trying to cover war here, but Ming Coalition CBs us, but they're gonna have a real hard time landing us, and the only thing they can take is this peninsula, because good luck at getting access through Great Yuan. We spam Confucian academies in most places, gonna be nice for that pop promotion speed, and also getting max literacy for burgers, which will help with both trading and development. All right, let's talk about something a little bit more complicated. We have this gold here. It has roughly the same amount of supply and demand.
There's too many
However, the gold price is at minus 33%. That is because effective supply and effective demand give extra weight towards the supply and the demand that are happening in the market and discount the stuff that's happening from trade. Since most of our demand is exports, we are getting effectively more supply than demand, which is decreasing the price here. Now, this is actually pretty good for us because we are extracting most of our value through trade, so a lower gold price means that each trade is going to be more valuable because we get the differential between the two. However, if we increase the price of gold, it's not the case that the money is lost. The gold is still being sold locally and adding to the local tax base, and so instead we could extract it through the estates, and the estates can get some money to spend, which is all well and fine for us. This is going to be the case that getting a higher gold price is going to get better as the car gets louder outside, but it's also going to get better as you start to get more control over areas, which we are experiencing because control decreases tax base, but it does not decrease the value you get from trade, unlike market access.
Control decreases tax base? Why? I thought control increases tax.
Which decreases both. And so we're entering a phase where spiking the price of gold higher isn't going to really have that much negative value for us. At the same time, we are also entering a phase where wood is expensive, expanding the gold is expensive, and we can't expand the gold anymore. Which brings us to jewelry. Now, jewelry costs gold to make. So if we produce jewelry, what will end up happening is beyond just their PM being valuable in itself, what will happen is we will decrease the price of jewelry and we will increase the price of gold, which will be good if we want to export jewelry just as much as gold. Well, jewelry has a base price of 5, gold has a base price of 10, but jewelry costs half as much to transport, so it's a bit of a wash in terms of which one you want to send out. And so then the question is do we want to just turn gold into jewelry? And the answer is, even if the margin by which the jeweler is just as profitable as another building, like let's say a tool maker, the value we get from pushing up the price of gold, since its base values are higher, is going to be larger than, in terms of stimulating our market and adding to the tax base, is going to be larger than other goods, say the tool maker, in terms of their inputs, if the total value of their inputs is going to be lower. So iron has a base price of 3. In terms of the tools, we see that 0.8 iron is used, so a total of 2.4 worth of value gets stimulated when we create.
Is he explaining supply and demand? Yeah, but he's but because of the way the game works, you get money both from like the differential in prices from your market and the export price or whatever, and you get money from the tax base because the goods are being owned or produced in your provinces. You get it from tax. You get income from taxing your dudes, and he's explaining that the benefit of having the price of gold change is greater than the benefit of having the price of jewelry change.
Those extra buy orders within our own market in terms of adding to the tax base. If we look at the jeweler,
is that right?
Base price of 10.
Did I understand that right?
Gold is going to add 4 worth of stimulation to our tax base when we increase the price of it. Beyond that, we also have the additional enhancements we can add on. And so we can produce more value for our tax base even if the building is just as profitable as other buildings, and we can also extract just as much through trade because we can trade jewelry jewelry just as effectively as gold, and at the same time, I'm pretty sure this has negative effects for other countries because by decreasing the gold supply, we deny them profitable opportunities to turn gold into jewelry themselves and try and export it. This, of course, would be great for us because it would give us more opportunities for profitable export, but I'm a little bit less sure about the downstream effects. The entire point of highlighting this isn't to explain our strategy here, but it's to express that there are complex ideas that can be expressed through the economics here in EU5, even though we're just kind of going through a relatively simple plan here of increasing control. Yeah, we will add a bunch more jewelers to the queue though. So the transportation segment that started at 30, then was 7, is now down to 1.3. So we are able to get quite connected to the capital, to this little peninsula here. In terms of control, we are up to a
This makes my head hurt.
equilibrium of 82. Now that this is also a core, you see that it is applying plus 20, and so that can connect pretty well. But it is connecting to a different market, which is kind of another thing to think about. And so the connection to the market is a respectable 75% as well here. And so the economic activities happening here, we're getting relatively well compensated for. We finally get Yongming Cheng in the north here, upgrading to a town, which is going to be a critical piece of infrastructure with 100% harbor.
Are town upgrades just due to population? I think I was talking over when he was explaining this.
Here to the rest of our nation for control. I mean, you can't not take Beijing, so.
Mandate of heaven.
Gold is up from -33% to -23%.
Are you terrorist?
Jewelry, we have to scroll all the way to the top here of the very
Victoria, right?
Is up from, down from -29% to -40%. If we look at the way that this affects the trade routes, which to be fair, we have a confounding variable, we added way more trade routes. We have way less gold at the top of the scrum here, so we're not exporting gold to other people, so they are not able to do as many of the PMs that require gold, and we are starting to export quite a bit of jewelry in here. We have 115 total sell orders of jewelry. About 100 of those are exports and the rest is our own local consumption. Towards the bottom, we were actually having higher trades profit at the marginal level, at the very least profitable one, which is why we added a whole bunch of trade. So trade overall seems relatively the same in value, a little bit more flat, a little bit less polarized with really high ones and really low ones, but that wasn't the point.
The market system is fucking crazy. So, there's going to be trade companies in this game, right? There have to be trade companies, which means you're going to be able to make... Can you do one market per country? Or do you do, markets in... do you do markets in... provinces? Can one country have 3 different markets and have access to all of them? Because historically, okay, you would get raw materials from the East Indies, and you'd process them in your factories at home in Britain, and then you'd have an exclusive market to sell your... What the fuck do the British make? Beans and toast holders. Tea. I don't think the British make tea. They make teacups. The British manufacture teacups, and they, from the raw porcelain gained from... Is porcelain a raw material? They get the porcelain from... the East Indies, and they turn it into teacups in Britain in a manufactory, and then they sell it back to their exclusive market, and that's how you would make money in in 1658 or whatever. The fact you can have multiple markets is an important part of the game. Different goods will cost different amounts in different parts of your country. Holy shit.
We expected this.
Trade companies are going to be really cool.
What the idea is that hopefully we've increased our tax base by a large amount by increasing the price of gold and making it more profitable. Of course, we would need to test a little bit more and look at stuff a little bit more closely to know for sure, but the idea is I think what we expected is being seen right here. So we hit an important inflection point here where we have 100 maritime presence all throughout the bay in here, and our trade ships are starting to propagate control on the east coast of the peninsula. Coming back to the canal we're building, we're not quite done with all the levels here, but it's looking like some of the segments are going to have a ton to overcome from the proximity.
So wait, is he building a canal through the entirety of Korea here? Is that what he's doing?
Some of these sea zones
Will he be able to pass ships through here?
Cost, but this plus 25, since it's additive with discounts and having to incur it on both the forest and the hills, this might be too much to overcome, and we might end up spreading the control not through our canal, but rather through this maritime presence here. So we have a rural cathedral, much like a temple, which increases maximum control. It, however,
Is that why he
only
wants
be
cities in each of
applied to
those 4
rural areas,
provinces?
So no towns or cities, and we put a bunch down in areas that we know we want to keep rural. And so this is an interesting kind of play pattern where a lot of the places we want to keep rural are going to be the ones with really good resources, like the pepper and the gold, and also places that have bad terrain, like the mountains here. Another interesting building like this is the market village. It can only be built in rural areas. You see the requirement here. And this is a Swiss army.
A canal that ships can't pass through. I guess you wouldn't want... I guess the important thing is... I assume there's going to be... I assume the way it works, alright, is trade power or the representation of trade power or control is going to pass easily through the canal, even though you can't pass like your military ships or galleys or whatever through it.
Knife of buildings. It gives you possible laborers, which smooths out resource expansions, which need laborers. That way there's going to be 100 ready and willing. It gives you some trade advantage and capacity. And also, it gives you a bunch of different production methods that produce a bunch of different stuff. Pottery, jewelry, weaponry, beer, glass, and tools. And so they're very modular. And we have these, again, in all the areas where we know that we want to have not expanding as a result of generally speaking, that we want to have not expanding as a result of, generally speaking, good resources. We see gold and pepper here are among them. We get our first core across the bay in Weihai, and it's going to have a maximum of 100 controls. So this area, this little peninsula across the bay, 100 control on that. So up in the north, we're starting to get a little bit of a colony situation. However, they have have 0 access to the market down here in Akita. So I think we're going to make our own market right here.
I like the map.
Access.
It's spherical-ish.
The market down here in Akita.
Alaska isn't blown too much out of proportion.
So I think we're going to make our own market right here because this place has a pretty good harbor suitability, and this will also give us a little bit of leverage over the area. The area is in the Arctic in terms of the terrain, so it's really not going to be worth a lot at any point in time, but we're going to make a new market there. Okay, I mean, it's not
Where's
much
my Northwest
with a market value of
Passage?
2, but it'll grow.
When can I pass ships through the Arctic?
So unfortunately, the last 2 segments of our canal, Hoiyang and Tongxian, are not the most efficient ways to travel, despite, you know, those having a canal system. Just traveling with one through this mountain is a little bit more efficient. So a little bit unfortunate, but we still do have the canal system out to here, which is helping us get over to here a bit faster. This is probably the last major improvement we will be able to make to proximity, other than these on the coast here should get more proximity as a result
and that's gonna
of going
increase control. Okay.
Through the ocean, and if we use the proximity map mode, you can see how they are traveling around in order to get there, even if they're on.
Okay.
You know,
okay. Control is going to be stuff like control and market access and stuff are going to be a function of proximity, which is a number determined by infrastructure and distance from the capital and whatever other shit you can have your cabinet do.
the full right side, and so we're expecting to see more of that. And this is kind of the last vestige of a place that's not traveling through there. It's interesting to see how they do use the canal system a little bit. I'm pretty sure we could put a canal system through here in the middle so we could get a little bit more access here. I don't know if we have a river through here, but this is kind of the level to which...
Do you need a river to make canals? I guess that makes sense.
We've been able to
creating
propagate control,
fresh
at least
waterways
for this
yourself
age, until
is
we get new technologies that are going to
fun.
make it better, and then we can start looking
Hundreds
more
of
outward,
thousands
which
dead
we've
in the
already been
construction
doing,
of
but we just haven't been commenting
Panama Canal.
on it too much. If we kind of look through here, we can see that we do have a nice string of area that we will have maritime presence through at some point in
Access
time.
air showing you where it travels
and
to
really
is
be
so
able
cool,
to dominate.
unironically. Yeah, well, it shows you the shortest path. Ugh. Does it show you the shortest path? Any graph theory
Trade there.
people?
And this sort of brings us to a larger point I
care
wanted to
about
make
this
about
sort of
EU5
thing. Explain
economics,
how you
which
think
is that I
it's
think it's phasic in nature. What is really important changes over the course of time. You know, for us at this outside here, expanding our RGOs all the way, getting control as much as possible, even releasing subjects so that they can have a bit of control for you, and then also urbanizing as much as
Isn't the
possible
mechanics
so
gonna
that
be
you have
automated?
these urban buildings to be able to keep stuff
Yes,
queued up in.
I think I read
All of
that
this
somewhere.
is really
They're gonna
important.
automate a bunch of this stuff.
But
I don't know. I
what's
don't think I'd
important
enjoy automate. I don't think I'd enjoy automating all of this. I feel like I'd have a lot of fun crafting my little canal network.
changes over time, and in particular, the discovery of the New World provides one of the best examples of what I mean by this. Is when you discover the New World, you get a whole bunch of new goods, and the first time your pops taste these goods, then this creates demand for the goods. So then these will be extremely expensive. So that means if you can trade for them, or move the trade, or control the trade for them, it's immensely profitable. So now you send your traders out, and you look to get what's called trade power in the region. And I do believe we have a kind of contested region in Huangzhou if we take a look at the trade power here. And we can see that
China's not split up. Ming has 7 plus trade markets in it.
that we have 115 trade power and they have 111. Whoever has the biggest trade advantage, rather than power, these are the ones who control all the trades first. So they resolve all their trades, prices are recalculated, and then the next person goes. And so if you can be first in these really lucrative trade opportunities,
I think you can't
then
make
this
a very
becomes
big
extremely
market.
important.
I think that's one of the best ideas that they stole from my mind that I've never vocalized before.
And so gaining trade advantage through bullying people, colonizing, and using maritime presence, this is something you can do. And this changes in terms of what's important. However, this isn't the only way you can play or the only way you can deviate, because in order to go the colonization route, we have to play Age of Discovery in the Diplo tree. And what's notable about the Diplo tree is it really doesn't have a whole lot of manufactories in it. In order to get manufactories in this next stage coming in, we have to play the administrative kind of area pretty deep. Notably, there's paved roads. And so if you wanted to play something more centralized and internal, you could do that. And we have these manufactories here for paper, or these workshops, paper workshops, naval supplies workshops, weapon workshops, these types of things. And okay, you could do both, but remember, you can only research 50 to 75% of all texts within a given period of time. So then
Hold on. I need to see. Do these trees merge?
we have to play Age of Discovery in the Diplo tree. And what's notable about the Diplo tree is it really doesn't have a whole lot
No.
of manufactories in it. In order to get manufactories in this next stage coming in, we have to play the administrative kind of area pretty deep. Notably, there's paved roads. And so if you wanted to play something more centralized and internal, you could do that. And we have these manufactories here for paper, or these workshops, paper workshops, naval supplies workshops, weapon workshops, these types of things. And okay.
It hurts that those are exclusive options. That hurts a little bit. What are the military options? Coordinated march, movement cost, reinforced speed. The fact that these are exclusive How are they gonna balance them?
Workshops, paper workshops,
Oh
naval
no!
supplies workshops.
I'm gonna get FOMO every time I play this game and a new age comes up. I'm gonna sit there for like 15 minutes, like, what do I pick?
Shops, these types of things. And okay, you could do both, but remember you can only research 50 to 75% of all texts within a given period of time.
They said you can get 75 to 80% of each age's tree. My understanding was that you were gonna get, is that when the ages start, you pick a focus. You pick an age focus. And then that locks you into that tech tree.
So then you'll really be dumping military. So you have to make choices about what's going to be important and then play to your strengths in that way.
That was the way I
and
understood
the economies will change based on how you make your choices. Here's our literacy map mode. Here's our development map mode.
You can probably pick one to start and then you can do the others after you're finished with that. Maybe. It unlocks extra advances. Okay.
In terms of income, we are making around 600 in taxes and 1,000 in trade, less our trade expense. The reason our economy is doing booty is because we misclicked an event and accidentally took a $56,000 loan. Now, towards the beginning of the video, we took a look at the tooling workshop in Juju, notably suffering from market access. It was around 0.53%, let's call it 0.5, and then also it only had about 20 control. Now it has 58% control. So in terms of how many goods it was producing, it went from producing around half the goods it can because of market access to 65%, which represents roughly a 30% increase, or a 25% because it was 53%. And in terms of tax base that was added to, we have to multiply it by the level of control, and so 0.5 times 0.2 is around 10% of the value is going to the tax base, and now we can round a little and call it 0.6 times 0.6, and so roughly 36% is going to the tax base, which represents a 260% increase in terms of tax base, which is kind of the overall trajectory that we experienced during this time frame as it relates to kind of this location that is out here on the edge. Of course, we
earlier when he said that that increasing the value of the trade goods decreases, increasing the value of the, well, maybe increasing the value of the trade good would decrease tax base because it's more expensive for your pops to purchase it. I don't remember what he said.
Max control much earlier in the central area where we started urbanizing and producing first. Well, that's it. I was trying to be as information dense as possible. Hopefully I succeeded, you know, while focusing on specifically economics and specifically control, which I think is a pretty sharp deviation from EU4 in EU5, and so I wanted to talk about that, constraints being, of course, time. I'll probably have to go back and re-record my rather lengthy intro that I had already recorded, but I did want to comment on a couple things before I went. The first of all is I'm probably going to be doing more EU5 content. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments, and if there's enough questions, we will do a Q&A video. And then secondly, I just wanted to comment on the price collapsing kind of metagame slash mechanic, and I have mixed feelings on this. I think it's fine from a gameplay perspective, but from the perspective of a simulation, the government locking in super low prices for like 30 things all at once, I think doesn't quite make sense, but I don't really see a good solution for it. This is something I left feedback on, but I do have like mixed feelings on that. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to do the YouTube algorithm thing, like, comment.
Games would be good. Game seems interesting. What are your general thoughts so far? It's a lot of interesting mechanics. I like control. I like the way they're doing control. I like the proximity mechanic. The trade goods thing is like overwhelming. I don't know why I'd ever play Victoria 3 if this exists, you know? I think I understand what Lath meant when he said it took an hour to get 3 years through the game. This is gonna be a time sink. Okay, that's a video game. Controls actually goated because the fix for it is becoming an infrastructure autist. Yeah, I mean, encouraging migration in certain areas to turn them into cities, to make sure you're able to build canals through an area to propagate control onto the other side of the country that you are like trying to get through to skip mountains. I don't have words. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool that you're able to think of the game in that way. What's the funniest way I can demolish my economy, and how many other countries can I take down with me? Be the sole supplier of iron, and then like close market, like open market access for iron, with everybody, and become the iron guy, and then become a pariah state and close your market access with everyone, and watch them all become poor. And then you also become poor because your entire economy is iron based. There, that's what you do. Damn. In terms of UI, at least it's more readable than meiou and taxes. Play Eastern Europe, you produce so much wheat, you crash the price of wheat of your enemies, they close down their wheat productions, then you war and they all starve. Well, the implication there would be that they have access to your market either through someone else's market or however, right? Yeah, the bar is on the floor. In terms of you. I don't think I can play this mod. I don't think I can play this mod. I think this mod is too much for me. It runs like shit. Every time the game saves, it hangs for like 15 seconds, like it's about to crash. People actually play this. Somehow runs worse than it does run worse than Ambonar. Okay, bros. E5 look cool. I'll play it when it comes out. I hope you guys are looking forward to it too. It looks fun. It looks fun. It looks in-depth enough for me to not be disappointed when it comes out. Wait for Black Ice when? No. Alright, Rose. I'll see you later.